Hello. Good evening. Hope everyone had an excellent holiday. Thank you guys for coming. It's always great to see some people here and ready to jump in. And we're going to give everyone a minute or two to continue doing so. But right out of the gate, I want to just say a couple things. First of all, last time we did this, there was a caller who called in, and they were an international caller, and they were calling from a voice over IP system from their PC, and we had a bunch of connection issues with that caller, and we held up the lines for a while trying to reconnect with the caller a number of times, in which countless dozens of callers continued calling in, even though we asked everyone to hold up the lines and stop calling in so we could find this caller. You know, this is a place where we don't track anything. We're not like keeping track of any information on these callers that call in. And so there was a moment where it was actually a really hilarious moment. We were, the chat and I were ruthlessly trying to find this caller's call because they were trying to call back in. And so we were asking people not to call in. And so I just proceeded to block dozens of numbers from calling in. And so I just wanted to address that and say that I saw a good comment in the replay from a regular viewer who actually there was a couple of comments about this, comments suggesting that the people who were calling in, even though we were asking people to not call in and hold up the lines for this one caller, may have not been watching the live stream and may have just been calling in knowing we were live and not watching, which I thought was an excellent point. So I have since unblocked all of those numbers. So if you called in before and there was some kind of misunderstanding, we're just, maybe we unblocked a couple of trolls. Maybe they'll continue calling in, but I thought it was a great point. So as of now, all of those callers have been unblocked, for better or worse. So there's that. And then secondly, and then right after this, we're going to just jump right in and open up the lines. If you guys have been enjoying these, it seems like a lot of you are, it seems like there's a core audience here who has been tuning in regularly, a number of which I've seen comments from that I've not really been in a good place to address, meaning like I'm never logged into my official YouTube account except for like one computer, which is used for publishing and whatnot. So I often see comments that I'm not able to respond to because I'm not logged into that account on the device I'm looking at comments on. So I just wanted to thank a number of people who have been giving ideas and suggestions about this format, and just acknowledge that I am seeing a number of those comments, and I appreciate them, even though I'm not often in a setting where I can respond to them. The passwords to these official accounts are crazy, so logging in is often impractical. I'll put it that way. But yeah, with that, we're going to dive in. If you have been enjoying these episodes, please join me in doing that thing I hate doing, which is posting to social media. If you feel like there's any value here, if you've been listening and have gotten something out of it, please consider, at the very least, encouraging someone to call in. I'm not going to ask people to like post. I'm not going to put links for like, this is not the kind of place where we're going to whore out with asking you to like click to tweet or whatever, because it's just not that kind of thing. But in any way you feel so inclined to help us spread the word, be it through a social media post or even just through having someone call in that is going through something, that would mean a lot. So with that said, we're going to open up these lines and just dive right in. And also just want to reiterate, I've been seeing some comments in the chat about like, is this therapy? No, this is not therapy. If you're just joining for the first time, I am not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. This is just a place where people going through things can come and just share and be heard. And we don't consider anything about you. It's completely anonymous. Like, we're not looking to only listen to you if you think or believe certain things. We're just interested in hearing the stories of humans. So if you're confused, that's what we're going for. And we're going to take our first caller. Hi there. Thanks for calling.
Oh wow, I got through. That's cool. Um, what's up? How you doing?
I'm all right. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah. Oh, before I say anything, I just wanted to say that like I'm like 22, and I watched your videos since I was like I don't know, like 10 or 11. It's kind of
What's your
crazy
issue?
your presence
I
on
appreciate
the.
I appreciate
Sorry?
that. I don't mean to cut you off. I appreciate the sentiment, but this is not about me. We're looking to ruthlessly pursue callers who have something they need to get off their chest.
Oh
Or
no, yeah, I
is there
got
something
you.
you want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of in a very weird position, where I feel like I should be happy,
Mm,
but I'm not. A little background. Like I said, I'm like in my early 20s. I graduated college like a year ago. I was looking for a job for a really long time. I finally got one. I started working out. I have like, a girlfriend now. I feel like I've been doing a lot of things you're supposed to do, like as an adult. And I don't know, I still feel this sense of like longing, not longing, just like general sadness. And like I have things I'm passionate about,
right.
like music and like making like art, and like reading and stuff. And I do all that too. And like I don't know, I found myself like more demotivated recently too. I'm just not sure, man. It's like general adulthood seems kind of strange.
Right. Um, is there something that happened that contributed to the feeling you're experiencing, or is it just out of the nowhere? Out of nowhere. I mean, often your early 20s are a rough time. We've had a number of callers calling in from their early 20s. Are you just going through like a developmental thing, possibly, or is there something that happened that triggered all of this?
I'm not sure. Like I think I've always like felt this way, and I've just like set goals for myself that I want to achieve. Like I wanted to get this job. I got this job. I wanted to work out more. I've been working out more. I wanted to make more music. I've been making more music. I'm in a happy relationship now, and it's like I don't know. You work towards these goals and you get them, and at some point it's like, what's next? You know?
Right. Um, what is it you want to do? It sounds like maybe there's some kind of ceiling you're hitting or something. Is there some limitation?
Limitation?
Yeah. So you said it seems like things are going okay. Like you're doing all the things you think you should be doing, like getting a job and a girlfriend and whatnot. Is there some ceiling you're hitting, or is this like possibly something psychological going on that like maybe your brain chemistry is just different from other people's, and you're always going to feel that way no matter how good you have it? Have you unpacked this kind of thing with therapy? I know that's a lot of questions. I'm just trying to understand.
No, you're good. No, I haven't. Like, I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't know. I'm not like a psychologist or whatever. Not a therapist. I don't want to like self-describe myself. Like, I'm probably depressed. I don't know. That's what people have told me. But like, I don't know. Like I feel like I'm able to like function. Like I don't think it's like inhibiting in any way. I think the bigger issue for me, like I think even if that's true, I think I'm able to grapple with it on like a personal level and
Right.
keep on moving forward. I think like the broader thing is just like a sense of like purpose. And it's
Right.
like how do you find that when you achieve the goals you want to achieve?
Oh man, I've had a problem pronouncing this person's screen name since they've started posting. Argonianon put into the chat for you that they think you may be experiencing a common situation, that you just graduated from college and just got off America's railroad. And I think that's some kind of analogy. But they think that the truth is it doesn't lead anywhere specific in your mind, maybe, and that you need to invest in another journey. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I guess that's possible. Like, I guess the thing is, I don't really know what that. Like, I'm happy, you know. Well, I'm not saying I'm happy, but like, I searched for a job for a really long time. You know, like I worked in the food service industry, and for literally all throughout college, you know, like 5 years I was working, did a whole bunch of unpaid internships and stuff. I wanted to like go into politics, but I realized that was horrible, and like I really hated that space. And then I found this gig, and like it's not a bad gig, and like my main thing is like I just want to help people, you know. Like I don't really care about the money. I just want to contribute, whether it's through like nonprofit efforts or just like community building. And I'm
Right.
not really doing that right now. I think I don't want to talk about my job just for like, you know, anonymous reasons. But like I think there is some impact, just not as immediate as it could be. But the problem is like I was searching for these jobs, right, for so long and I couldn't find them. And when I did find them, they found someone better than me.
Well, we
And
can't.
it's like a ruthless out there.
Right.
I just like I have something I want to do, and I've tried to do it, but I haven't been able to. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I think your experience. I think I'm with Argonian on from the chat that I do think this is something a lot of people are experiencing right now, and I think that um, the challenge of where we are is that there's not always an outlet for the things that we're good at immediately. You know, we're in this weird time of where a lot is in flux. Like we're trying to adapt to the uh, the internet and all, you know, the rate of exchange of information and all these things are just like these crazy new paradigms that we've never. There are no rule book. There's no rule book for navigating these kinds of things, and so much is changing. I think there's a lot of people probably in your situation, and I don't know if it's like sounds like you're trying to figure out some things in life. I think your early 20s are a perfectly normal time to do that. I do want to thank you for calling in and sharing because, I think this is a really relatable problem. We've had a lot of callers calling in struggling with thoughts of suicide and things like this. So I do want to open up the lines for these callers, but I ask you to please call back anytime if you want to talk about this further. I think just as some closing thoughts, I think I just want to encourage you. This is a very normal thing to experience in your early 20s, in my opinion, and apparently to the opinion of the chat. So I'm not trying to, diminish your experience because I can tell in your voice you're going through a lot. But just know that this is a very normal time in your life to be questioning things and figuring out how to apply yourself and what kind of value you're looking for in life. So don't be discouraged. And again, like I said, please call back anytime.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hello?
Hi, thanks for calling. What do you want to talk about?
Hi, thanks.
Can you turn your speakers down, please?
Well, just talking about basically what the last guy was saying. He's in his early 20s, and just, trying to, I'm here with my girlfriend, trying to, just find our way through life, I guess.
Do you have something specific you've prepared to discuss?
Yeah, well, it's about my, we live in our car, we're both 20 years old.
Okay.
And we've been living in our car for, me a bit close to a year, and then her like about 6 months, something like that. And it's just getting pretty hard. Don't really know what to do anymore these days, but we're striving and we're hoping every day that things will get better. And it seems like it's getting closer. I guess we're just getting a little impatient.
Right. Yeah. So are you looking for some career advice, or what are you looking for? What would make this a helpful call?
I don't know. I guess to be honest, I've been feeling like there's something missing lately, and for me, um, can't say the same for my girlfriend, but for me, it feels like I'm just missing. Like I have like a lack of motivation, and I'm trying to find something to like, kind of like the last caller. He's looking like you suggested to him about like finding like another thing to invest his time in. I've been trying to find something like that to do. Like I'm very passionate about like writing music and stuff like that, and my girlfriend's very passionate about like making jewelry. And it's I don't know. It's just crazy because it's like there's all this stuff that we enjoy doing, but then once we get to doing it, it's like not even fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, work isn't supposed to be fun. I think this is like a common I don't know how old are you?
I just turned 20 last month.
Okay. This seems to be a recurring theme, and I don't want to be insensitive because I fully acknowledge, I can hear the frustration in your voice. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but I do think that there's like this, and I'm not saying that this applies to you necessarily. I could be totally wrong. I haven't been talking to you for 3 minutes yet, so happy to be wrong, of course. But I do feel like there's this, um, work is work. That's why you make money doing it. It's not supposed to be fun. And I do think that there's like this common misconception where people think that work is supposed to be fun. And I think that, that is probably comes from some, uh, uh, we live in a capitalist country where, entrepreneurialism is incentivized and, a lot of good ideas come out of this country because of that. And I think that a lot of
Yeah.
people often think that that means that, you hear that expression about like, if you do what you love for work, you'll never work a day in your life. And I just think that's bullshit. I think it's like, work is work.
I agree.
Yeah. Like you got to roll up your sleeves and do stuff you don't want to do sometimes. And that's what money is for. Money is to pay for a product or service. And this is work. This takes work. And, I just want to encourage people in your situation because I know that this is a really rocky time, especially in the West, economically and with things like trade and stuff like this. I mean, you're experiencing it. And I want to be really careful because, yeah, and I want to be really careful while I'm saying this because, I understand that your early 20s are a really rough time. You're trying to invent your whole life from nothing often. And
Yeah.
I know what that's like, and this is a really confusing time to be doing that in. But I do think that there's like this, like you said, like you guys, you and your wife sound like you're kind of go-getters. You're living your own lifestyle. You've tried starting a number of businesses, it sounds like, and then the term you used was that it just doesn't seem fun after a while. And so I zeroed in on that, but that could have been off base.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I definitely agree that you gotta. That's something that I look at myself. Sometimes I lay there sitting and I'm like, damn, maybe I'm just lazy.
Oh, I'm not saying you're lazy.
And I'm no. I totally I get what you're saying 100%. Like if I have to be willing to get like because money isn't just given. It's something you
Right.
gotta earn whether you like it or not, and people have to face that.
People make money from
Um,
solving problems, and solving problems is not fun. It takes work.
yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in investing myself in the I want to be a psychologist for youth, like troubled youth and stuff. Because growing
Okay.
up, I've been like in and out of group homes, and I've my girlfriend's childhood was both pretty rough, and I guess we're just still trying to find our way out of it.
Right.
And it's getting it has its off days and it has its on days, but for the most part, we're just holding on by a thread, trying to figure out what to do.
Right. I get it. It's a really rough time, and I think there's a lot of people in your position, which is why I'm taking calls like this and not just hanging up or toasting you because it's a real problem, and we're in a really rough time of, in my opinion, some transition in the States specifically. So I'm
Yeah.
empathizing with you for sure. It's a rough time, and I can't imagine being 20 at this time. So my heart goes out to you for
Yeah.
navigating this stuff. and I wish you the best in your journey. But just know that a lot of this is developmental. Like if you're in your early 20s, there's a lot of developmental stuff happening that will get easier and make next steps clearer with time, is my opinion. But there's a bunch of good ideas. There's a bunch of good feedback in the chat that you can revisit.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Appreciate you sitting here with me and will be willing to listen to some random Des problems. It means a lot, especially from one of my favorite YouTubers that I've watched since I was a kid, but you said that part's not important, so.
Well, I do appreciate you calling in and for your long-term support, it sounds like, and that means a lot to me. Thanks for calling in, and feel free to call back anytime.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Take care. Okay, I'm going to open up these lines again. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi. This is my first time. I've actually just caught this stream for the first time. I didn't know this was actually a regular thing.
It's very newly regular.
Unload.
What do you want to talk about?
So growing up, this isn't an entire backstory, but I've been basically like spending the last few years in this pandemic. I finished high school and got a job and figured out what I wanted to do, but like you've been saying in the past couple of calls, like developing in this kind of climate really sucks.
Right.
I don't really have a lot of friends where I live, so I've been trying to move across the country. I live on the West Coast, and I was going to go over to the East because I've got a bunch of friends over there, but I've been facing a lot of challenges because a lot of people that I've been checking in on haven't been very reliable, and rent nowadays is like stupid expensive, and so it's just been really hard finding someone to work with, and I think in doing this, I've kind of stressed a lot of the relationships that I've had. So nowadays I'm kind of left just like, I don't have a job right now. So I've just been kind of sitting in my room and, just kind of boating with those feelings.
Right. So you're in a state of transition and you feel maybe confused, or you don't know if you should move or not. Sounds like you don't have a lot of social potential where you are right now. It sounds like there's a lot of factors for you.
Yeah, and just to put this in perspective, I mean, I'm 19. I turned 19 a couple of months ago, and I've just been kind of fast-tracking my life because I'm growing up in a household that's been like, through my childhood has been abusive, and there's been drug abuse, and it's been horrible for me, but I was like, hey, maybe I can move and it would be a great fresh start for me, but like I don't really know how to handle friendships, and so a lot of the time I just kind of end up messing everything up, and so I'm just worried that when I move and I get roommates, everything will just get messed up again, and I'll be left back at like square one, except in a city that I don't even know, and I wouldn't even have any family members or anything to rely on.
What do you mean you don't know how to deal with the friendship? So I can't remember the exact way you put it, but you said something to that effect.
Well, it's because like I've had a couple of friends in high school, but all those have mostly gone away, and I noticed that I have a really hard time trusting people, and I can hardly take them for their words. So I'm worried that I'll just get like stressed and end up saying things I regret and ruining my friendships and just kind of leaving me with absolutely nothing, especially after I move.
Right. Sandra White from the chat says, as someone who is older than these first few callers, I can assure them that all of this takes time. Finding yourself, carving a niche, no such thing as an adult, and all that.
Right.
And I agree with her. the theme of these last 3 calls have been that your early 20s. You mentioned you're 19. Yeah, you're right there. This is a very normal time to be confused about these things. And again, the state of the world right now is exacerbating a lot of it. I feel for all these people who are your age who are trying to navigate the the job markets and whatnot at this time where you got COVID, you got polarization of Republicans and Democrats, and nothing, everything is controversial. And how do you conduct yourself as a productive professional, and much less to build a niche for yourself and to specialize in something. These are really confusing times to be doing that in. But, again, it's a big reason we're doing this format, because I think that these are just crazy times. And I think that, we want to hear stories like yours, no matter how common they are, because these kinds of things bring us together and make us all realize, like, hey, this is just like what's going on in the world right now. But I do think that there's like 2 parts, not to oversimplify what you're going through. It sounds like you've got some choices to make about where you should be living. You mentioned that there's some relational difficulties. I don't know if that's psychological or what that is. We could talk about a bit more about that if you want. But as far as the a lot of this stuff is developmental. I just want to encourage you that this stuff will get easier with time. And I'm with who said that from the chat? I'm trying to go back and see. Sandra White, it looks like, said that. I'm with her from the chat. This stuff will get easier. It has to. Even on the global side of things, things are going to have to level out, because this is not sustainable. So.
Yeah.
But, and I've said this to a number of callers as well, so I'll repeat it. We got to apply ourselves, even though it's such a rough time. Like, we can't not apply ourselves, because that's worse than doing nothing. Like, we have to just double down on whatever it is that, you have to find the kind of problems in life that draw your attention, and just go chase those. And that's not to say that they're always fun. And I don't mean to make this all about your work, because I know this is multifaceted, but, do you want to talk more about the relational stuff? Because it sounds like maybe that's what's bothering you.
Yeah, no, it was all of my friends, like, they're at least 5 or so years older than me. I don't think I know anyone my age, and the people I'm moving in with are only 25 to 26. So this is just like one of the groups, because everything's been rocky with all of that, and it's just that most of my friends are hardly available, so I don't really get to talk to them. And I honestly, like, a lot of the days that I just feel like I hardly really know them, or sometimes I talk to someone and they're like, oh, I felt like X, and I'm like, oh, well, that's not completely true, because like, in relation to things that they've said towards me or how they think that I took it, I'm just like, look, all I really want is to feel like I'm seen or heard by these people that I want to move in with or move into the area of, because, like, I haven't really had a single person to be around, and I just don't want to. I just want to know that I won't be alone, but I don't know if I can actually, like, make that a sustainable thing. And I'm really shit at explaining myself, but
No, I think I'm picking up on what you're putting down. Is there some kind of, are you happy with yourself? Are you able to live alone? Is there maybe some, I don't want to call it dependency on your friends, but is there some kind of like validation thing you're seeking? And since you're not getting it, it feels like double bad, because, that was several questions, I guess, but like, how do you feel about yourself, and are you okay living alone?
I feel like I could be okay with myself if I were able to, if my social needs were, like, met in such a way. It's not that I want to say that these needs are, like, out there or anything. I just want to know that I have friends, and even that, I don't need to see people very often. I just, the knowledge that if things go rough, I can go see someone one day and know that they're there, and, I don't know, bake something or cook something or go see a movie. really help a lot. I'm just concerned because since all of my friends are online, I have no idea what's really going on over there. I don't get told much, and
Right.
most of the things that I find out are through their social medias, so I don't really get messages from them very often, and I'm just worried that I move and I'll be in a town of people I don't really actually talk to very much, and nobody
Right.
would really want to see me, you know?
Well, from hearing you talk and from hearing your voice, you sound like a really, um, you sound like a really reasonable person. When I say that, I mean that you don't sound like excessive. You don't sound like even close to like overly excitable or like needy. Like I don't get vibes from you like you're a clingy person. Like you need people to. At first, I asked about that validation thing, but I'm not. From hearing you talk, it sounds like you're actually looking for something much deeper than that. It sounds like maybe you're really brushing up with something that is very real. Not that the validation thing isn't real; it's just a different can of worms, obviously. But
hmm
you said that your friends are online a lot and that they don't seem very available to you. It seems like you're after some level of intimacy with your friends, like real relationships where you can like tell each other, how you're really doing, and it doesn't sound like you have a lot of people around you that can like, you can go to and with like a bad day or horrible experience, or you sounds like you're seeking some level of intimacy that you can't find. Is that right?
That's part of it. I mean, what I was getting at was that I haven't had any friends since junior year of high school, and I mean, I've been out of high school for a year, and I had to switch schools partway through junior year. I just haven't really had any friends, so I'm saying like just to have friends at all, because the only people that I know are people that I've met through Discord. So just knowing that like when I move, I'll have like a landing pad and support that I could actually use, because that's not something I feel like I've had in a very long time.
Right. Well, just know that you're very young, and that's I'm not saying that like as an old. I'm not that much older than you, so I'm not saying it like with my glasses turned down at you or something. But like this is a at this age, so many people are moving around. It's a natural time for relationships to be disrupted. It's a natural time to feel alone, and be questioning what the true value of a relationship looks like for yourself. I think these are all really healthy questions to be asking at the stage of life you're in. Again, a lot of these things have been exacerbated by the pandemic and whatnot, all kinds of things lately. Inflation now as a repercussion of the pandemic.
hmm
That's causing all kinds of people to have to work overtime and things like this. So you're growing up in a really serious, conundrum. But I do believe that these things are going to, there will be answers for these dilemmas. We've got to maintain hope that we'll, get through these kinds of things. And I just want to encourage you that, yeah. As an aside, you mentioned again because you mentioned your friends are all on social media. Social media is like, it's supposed. It's the strangest thing because it's supposed to bring us together, but it actually just like because of how of all the fakery on it and like all the people just like posting things that are not really themselves. They're not. It's presented as this honest distribution of your personality in your life, but it's turned into this strange, con Ponzi scheme where it's like, it's not, none of it's real. And I'm really concerned about a lot of young people. It doesn't sound like you are in this camp, but there's a lot of kids your age that don't know authenticity from just a blatant lie. And that really concerns me because that's not the world I grew up in. And if we lose that ability to, trust things, and especially to trust relationships, we're cruising for a bruising. So, it sounds like you've got a good head on your shoulders. It sounds like you are concerned about good things, and maybe you just haven't found the right people around you yet. But I believe they'll come. I believe you'll find those people. It'll take time. Even when I was your age, there was some of this stuff happening. You know, like MySpace was, you know, already irrelevant by the time I was 20. So, you know, like this.
Right.
But there were things like this, like, you know, I'm dating myself, but this is not a new problem, but it's definitely really bad right now. So I'm really sorry you're going through that. And I hope this is helpful for people to hear. There's a bunch of good thoughts in the chat. I hope you revisit. And is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else? What would make this helpful?
Yeah, no, I suppose that was mostly it. I also wouldn't want to hold up the calls much longer.
Well, I appreciate you calling in. Call back anytime.
Of course. Thank you.
Take care. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hey, Julian. Thank you so much for taking my call. I really need it. I just, man, I've had the craziest week. I just got back from vacation, but I feel even worse than when I left. It's a really long story, so I'll just make it short. Basically, I was supposed to go down for a friend's wedding, and I was going to make a trip of it and get a car on the way down. I crashed the car that I currently had, and then the new car that I got, that broke down on the way to the wedding. And it just feels like over the course of the last year, every little thing that can go wrong is going wrong. And I don't know, I'm just having trouble. I mean, today sitting in the car, like my best friend in the world, who I've had like complicated feelings for the longest time. Like I just found out that she had a boyfriend, and like she didn't even like tell me about it. And like last time I saw her, she like left things really open ended. Like she said, yeah, maybe we'll get together next time we meet. But I don't know. I just feel like everything is making me mentally deteriorate to the point where all those things, I don't know, maybe I'm the one that's causing them. I just like don't know what kind of help I need. Where do you think I should go? I mean, I don't, listening to all these other guys that are calling you, I've got kind of similar problems where like I used to have a lot of friends, and then over the years they just kind of fell off, and now I don't have any more.
How old are you?
I am 22.
Yeah. Again, I do believe these are very common things that, you know, in your early 20s, your social circle gets disrupted. You know, you got to start over from scratch almost most of the time. It could be a really rocky thing, especially because you're trying to figure out not only how your social circle is going to change, but how you're going to apply yourself professionally, and all these things add up. You know, it can be really daunting. Doesn't make it not a real problem, but it's, you know, I just want to encourage you that, again, these are developmental. These, you said you're mentally deteriorating, though, so I want to hear more about that.
I feel like the only two possible reasons for all the things that have been going wrong with me, and one is I'm being punished by some higher power, and two is that I'm causing them, and just like maybe the crash was my fault. I don't know. Honestly, it happened so fast I don't even know how it happened. And I don't know how I've gotten so in credit card debt, because I don't spend lavishly and I have a decent job. I just don't know where the money went. It's just every little thing that can go wrong is going wrong, and I don't understand how it got this way.
So there's some debt now too. There's you're in some financial trouble.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. Like I just that car I just bought that just broke. I'm probably out $7,000 because I didn't even get insurance changed over yet, and
Right.
the dealership won't take responsibility for it, even though literally the engine died like 300 miles in.
Man, it sounds like you're in a case of when it rains, it pours. You know.
And that's what I was thinking. Like a few months in, 6 months in, but it's been like a year now of like I can't find a single thing to go right. Like I was hoping like this week I went on vacation. I went to go see family. Like maybe I would finally get a chance to for things to calm down, but
Right.
no.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes life goes that way. Sometimes you can't catch a break for years on end. That is relatable. It doesn't make it any less difficult. It can seem like the end of the world, but it rarely is. And there's always things we can do. I don't love a lot of Jordan Peterson's stuff. I don't like outright disregard most people, but I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the stuff he says. But he has said some things along this note that I think are kind of helpful and applicable. He talks a lot. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jordan Peterson, but he talks a lot about like if your life is a mess, either through some action of your own or through just the chaos of the universe, then you just got to roll your sleeves up and clean it up. And no 5-year-old wants to hear their parents tell them, go clean your room. But those messes only get more difficult to clean up the older we get. It never stops in my experience so far. And I'm only 35, or I'll be 35 in a few weeks. The messes only get more complicated to clean up. And so, this is kind of seeming like a thing a lot of people your age are dealing with right now is this overwhelming feeling of, how can I make these things better? I can't give you financial advice. We're not here to do that.
Yeah.
But I hope that's applicable, the Jordan Peter thing, even though I don't listen to a lot of his stuff. I will also quote the Old Testament here. I won't quote it, but I'll reference it. The story of Job. It's a shame to me that a lot of the specifically the Old Testament stuff in the Torah is not really understood or appreciated by a lot of kids today. And when I say kids, I even mean young adults like yourself. There's this disdain towards those books, but they're filled with so many helpful anecdotes and stories and wisdom about adversity through civil life. And I believe it's not even what I believe. It's just, it's because the Torah is the earliest history ever written. There's a reason that these stories exist. It's because people in civilized life go through things like this. Often when it rains, it does pour. The story of Job, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it could be an inspiring read for you. Just, you don't even have to, I don't care to know about your religious preferences specifically, but those aside, it's a good story, really helpful and inspiring story about someone who just never gave up, just kept going even though they lost everything. And just know that the things you're going through right now, if you apply yourself and keep believing that there's a way forward, you're going to find it. I fully believe that you will.
Okay. But I do have like one more specific question.
Go for it, yeah.
And I'll check that out. So Jordan Peterson and the story of Job. I'll look into those. But
cool.
So like more on like I know you've beat it to death like over the last like few sessions, but when I'm like trying to meet new people and make friends, like the ones that I've had in the past, I've only made at either work or school. And since my work right now, I work for myself. I only ever meet people like once and then I never see them again. And I'm not really going to school. When I'm meeting new people, I'm like hyper aware of every tiny movement that I make, every little like crack of the voice, every single word I say. I'm like hyper aware of it, and so I'm like not really being like my true self, who I am. And the friends that I've made, it's only after I've been like forced to spend like a month every day with these people, and then like I can actually come out of my shell and like be myself and like make new friends. How can I like skip that and just go right to being myself around other people, and then maybe I can find new friends that way?
Sounds like you got some self consciousness or some social anxiety. Is that possible?
I mean, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned this on one of the first episodes we did a couple weeks ago about being polite takes a lot of energy. And if a couple of callers called back in and misunderstood what I meant by that, they thought I meant being positive takes a lot of energy, which I corrected them very quickly. Because it's a very big distinction. Like being polite. Often, if you're dealing with some kind of social anxiety, which I have a lot of experience with, I've gone through a lot of social anxiety. Meaning that if I'm in a room full of I prefer one-on-one conversations, maybe like one, like 3 people tops, 3 close relationships. That's like my favorite kind of gathering, tops 3 people. Including myself, so just no more than 2 people, because I like to, have a real conversation and talk about something that, for a long time. It's hard to do that with the more people you add to it. But there's a lot of, I've developed a lot of social anxiety from doing things on YouTube. Quite honestly, like I've said so many times on this channel, I never set out to be an actor, and yet I just kind of stumbled into dabbling quite heavily in acting and was not really prepared for being stopped in public and things like that. And that, caused me to have this severe social anxiety where I couldn't go anywhere without thinking exactly what you just said. I was just how am I coming across? People thinking I'm being mean or a jackass or something like that. I was really worried about it. Way too worried in hindsight. And I've learned to curb all of that. And now I'm in this place where I kind of just, you mentioned finding authenticity, and not, I just sense that maybe you're spending a lot of energy on trying to connect with people instead of just, maybe you haven't really discovered what's important to you yet. Maybe you need to invest some time in yourself and figuring out what interests you and what motivates you. And in time, those will become the pillars of, your relationships and whatnot. It's hard to relate to someone if you don't know with what you are relating with. And you sound really young, so, I think these are normal things to be figuring out, but I think you'll find them.
Okay.
Did any of that make sense?
Just yeah. You're saying I need to do a lot more self-work so that I can be more present whenever I'm around other people, right?
Right. Yeah. And in time, you will just, I remember in my early 20s, I was kind of the sum total of my friends. And now I'm just very, it used to be that when I was with one person, I might, they might get one side of me, one drastic side of me, and another person would get a totally different, one person I might go, when I was a teenager, it was pranks. With certain friends, I would go do public pranks, and we would make prank videos. With other friends, we would just get together and play video games, and we were really subdued. And, the older I've gotten, the more just consistent I've become with what's important to me. And a lot of my relationships look really similar now, because I've found what matters to me, and I just lean into that. And I've just kind of accepted that, certain people I'm not going to relate with as well as others. It's not to say that you can't have relationships with them or that there's no value there, because I do believe there's value in all relationships, and there's something to learn from everyone. I firmly believe that. But, in terms of the people I want to spend a lot of time with, those have become really consistent for me instead of just kind of all over the place. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That really did help.
Great.
And then I did have one other question, and I'll look in the chat for other people's answers.
Great.
But what's a physical place or website where I could find other people that want to meet in real life and find common interests and things? I don't know, maybe a video game group where I can actually get to know people.
I have no idea, but maybe I'll invent one. Sounds like a great idea. Actually, you just invented it. Why don't you go start it?
Okay.
It's a good question. I wish I knew the answer to that. There may be something like that. I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks for calling. Call back anytime.
Thanks for your time.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Julian.
Thanks for calling.
Bye.
All right. I will ask, not as a general rule, but for the remainder of this episode, because the last 3 or 4 callers, can't remember how many we've done now, have had very similar problems. If you're calling in with like a similar theme, if you've been watching, we've just taken a number of callers that are all kind of going through these like early 20s, like transitory things where, they don't have a lot of, a lot of their relationships have, moved away and they're trying to learn where their new footing is. These are very real problems, and I don't want to discount them because, when I was that age, I would have wanted to have someone to talk to as well, which is why they haven't been toasted. But if you are calling with something like that, where you're just trying to figure out how to navigate like a transitory phase, transition in your early 20s, unless there's something really specific that's gnawing at you, just hold your calls so that we can respect callers that are calling in with like, we've had a lot of people calling in with like severe addictions and like suicidal thoughts and things like this. So we want to, be able to take callers like that who really, really need to talk. And I'm not saying that other people don't really need to talk. Again, they weren't toasted. But for whatever that's worth, just consider what you're calling about. And if you've missed some of those calls, feel free to go back and listen to them because they were good calls, and they were all very different. All right, here we go. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you tonight? What do you want to talk about?
So I don't know. I've struggled with addiction for a long time, and it's become something that I've like. I really want to kick my alcohol habit, but I don't know how to do it. I've been telling myself for like 6 months that I want to stop drinking, but every single day I tell myself, today's the day, and I can't do it, and it makes me hate myself every day, and I don't know what to do about it.
How much alcohol are you consuming?
Well, I'd say like almost a pint of spirit a day. Like, it's a lot.
A pint of spirit a day. What's your drink of choice? What are you going after? Are you going after some like 90 proof stuff, or is it like brandy? I'm just trying to get specific. I mean,
it is brandy actually. That's crazy that you actually guessed that.
Well, I just went after the two spectrums. I mean, you got like 90 proof bourbon, and then you got like a lot of the brandy is like, it's basically wine. I'm not trying to diminish your problem. I'm just trying to figure out like, you mentioned a pint. That's quite a bit. So I was just curious, a pint of what? I'm glad to hear that you're not like drinking Everclear or something like that. But I could tell that this is something that's really bothering you. Does anybody know about this struggle that's in your life?
I've tried to tell people in my family about it, but it's like, it seems like when I tell them about it, it's like they kind of underplay it, like, oh, it's not that bad, or like, I know people that do it worse, and it's like, but to me, it's like, I really understand how big of a problem it is.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I try to like, kind of like call out for help, it's almost like, it's like, oh, I understand you're trying, or, you're working on it. But it's like, I just don't understand how to get help for it. And I'm almost kind of getting emotional about it because I actually didn't expect you to pick up my call at all. And, yeah, it's just, I feel like I'm successful in my life, and like I'm doing a lot of good things in my life, but I have this one like big problem that I can't move past. And if I feel like if I could move past it, then so many other things in my life would just start to naturally get better.
Right.
But I can't move past this one thing, even though I really want to. And I don't know, it's just, it's so stupid because the solution to it is so simple.
That's not stupid.
Like, it's just don't drink. Like,
don't be hard on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. The solution is not simple because you're not talking. Yeah, quitting alcohol should be easy, but you're talking about addiction. That's serious. I'm glad you're calling in. I want to highlight a couple things from the chat. Caleb Thompson says, my wife works for a mental health facility. She deals with substance abuse clients. The best thing you can do for substance abuse is to get treatment. There are clinics that will help you. I'm going to highlight a couple other things, then we'll talk about it. Jake Cooper says, I was drinking every day heavily. After joining these lives, I've managed to do lots of self-reflection, and I've gone clean. 1 week isn't much, but it's 1 week closer to beating a demon. And then Argonianon from the chat says, AA is the way. Having someone who won't judge and understand, someone who won't judge and understands you, who can hold you accountable, is important. I agree with all three of these people, and I want to add that the question of, have you considered a support group, or have you found a support group that's been actually supportive? I know that's a lot to consider, but I mean, we'll go from there. Wherever you want.
I definitely have considered that, and it's just I feel like it's hard for me to like take that first step and like put myself out there and like say like, you know, like, hey, like I have a problem, I need your help, because like I tell people that are really close to me about it, but again, like, you know, I've said that I just can't get that like a dismissive reaction from people.
Mm-hmm.
But to go to like actual professionals, like I feel like, I don't know, it's just hard for me to take that step and say, you know, like I need help from a which I know that I do. It's just, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's lots of addiction feedback in the chat. A lot of people in here seem to have dealt with addiction. They seem to understand where you are. I do agree with the chat that it sounds like you need some real support. It doesn't seem like you've found that support. That can come from a close relationship. It can come from a support group. It can come from a professional at some kind of clinic, therapist, counselor. Have you pinpointed which one of these might benefit you most in your particular struggle?
Honestly, I feel like I just like I need like a sponsor. Like I need someone like
that's a good
that
thought.
just holds me accountable every day. You know, like if someone like checks up on me and says like, hey, you're not drinking a day today, like that would be enough for me, I feel like. But it's just like I'm doing this like completely alone. Like I don't really, like, as previous callers were talking about, like I struggle with like having friends. Like I don't have any people that are close to me in my life, and like all my social interaction pretty much comes from work, and it's really hard to reach out to people that you work with, you know,
Right.
about personal problems that you have.
Totally.
So yeah.
How old are you?
I am 28.
28. Okay. So, yeah.
And I've been drinking like this for the better part of a decade, maybe 2 years off, but the rest of them definitely pretty heavy.
Okay. Did you move away from home? I don't want to know where you are. Why do you have no friends?
Well, I left home to go to university, but then I graduated and I moved back home, and I now work home, you know, at a pretty good job. I'm an engineer, and I do well for myself, but every day is just so crushingly stressful and lonely. And it's like, if you look at my life from an outside perspective, everything should be good. It looks good, but it's not. You know, like it's hard doing this, and it's hard getting by every day with addiction and tons of stress on you. You know, trying to impress all these big people that work at a big company, and you know, you do well for yourself, but inside it's really, it's taking a lot away from you, you know. And the only way you can cope is through this one thing that you know, which for me is alcohol, is to just drink every single night to put off the stress and feel something. And that's all you want to know. All you want to do is to feel something. It's just, that's all you're chasing after. And
There's a number of people in the chat who seem like they want to be your accountability partner. There's another number of people saying they wish they could talk to you. Actually, one person overtly said, Dina Krebs from the chat said, I wish I could be your accountability buddy. I know how it is to need that daily check. So there's already a bunch of love going out to you in the chat and potentially some support. I don't know what kind of support will be helpful to you because we've only been talking for a few minutes, obviously, but I do wonder to what, a couple of other people mentioned again your parents, which I believe I mentioned earlier. Like, do you have a family member or friend that knows about this? And I think you said that most of them just haven't taken it seriously. Is there anyone that you've been able to be honest with, like just like brutally honest and just be like, look, I'm destroying myself. I need help. And it's not visible because I'm good at hiding it, or whatever the words are.
Maybe that is my problem, that I'm too good at hiding it, because I do tell other people, like I straight up tell them, like I'm an alcoholic and like I need help. And
right.
It's like, it's some people are like, oh, we're all alcoholics in the family, like, and my parents are both, well, I don't know if they're both alcoholics, but they do both drink every day. And when like I tell them about how much I drink, they're like, oh, you're just as bad as us, and they kind of just like play it off, and it's like,
yeah, maybe they're bad.
I guess it's just
support for you. Maybe you shouldn't be supported by alcoholics.
And they're not bad people. Like they're
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
Successful people as well.
Of course, yeah. A lot of alcoholics are great people. It's not to say that they're a bad person. And this is a self-destructive kind of habit. It's an addiction.
Yeah. It's a hard pattern to break out of. Like, and I've been saying, like I decided 6 months ago, I was like, I want to stop this. Like, I really want to cut this out of my life. And it's been that long that I've been realizing, like, I can't do this, like I can't do this without help. Like, I thought I had control of it. I thought I was doing it because I wanted to do it, and I'm now realizing that I'm doing it because it controls me. I can't stop it. Like, I've made the decision to stop it, and my body can't do it, and it's crazy. Like, I don't know why I'm going to the store and buying more alcohol all the time when my brain is telling me that I don't want to do this anymore.
Right. Well, there's a lot to be learned about alcohol still. I mean, we're all the time learning. I mean, the science is always changing. It's like, is it good for you in moderation? Is it horrible for you still, even in moderation? Like, it's always changing. And, so to take it out of the context of alcohol, let's put it in the shape of another addiction. Like, a lot of people are addicted to sugar. It's one of the most addictive things that there are. But people aren't addicted to sugar because they're like getting some escape from. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's some people where like overeating is it's like an overeating thing, and maybe they're overindulging in sugar. Maybe there's some people like that, but like sugar in and of itself is like, we're addicted to it because we're evolved to our bodies are evolved to know that sugar is a novelty and it's a really quick way to get energy. And we used, hunter-gatherers used to come across a fruit tree and just, it was like your impulse is to eat all of it, because it's just like, when am I going to see another orange again? We would just consume tons of it. And I think that there's a lot of, again, like I'm not a scientist, and there's obviously like a lot that still needs to be learned about alcohol, as I started with. But like, I think a lot of addictions just come from this like over availability of goods. Like, we can just go down the street and get alcohol. We can just go down the street and get sugar. We can just open our phones and get dopamine from Twitter or Facebook or even YouTube or any of these Amazon. I'm not singling anyone out. It's just like we're dopamine addicts and we're energy addicts, and we get it from all kinds of places. We all have our poison of choice. So I'm definitely not like saying that your family is evil for being alcoholics. I want to be really careful about that. And also just like wondering if you've ever considered it from that angle, that like, this is just like some, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know if this will make sense, but I just feel like so many people get zeroed in on like, I'm an alcoholic, and it's like, well, no, like we're all kind of like addicted to something. We all have something we've got to curb. And I think that's just from the over availability of, we have this novel lifestyle now where you can just go get shit,
Yeah, no, that's definitely true, and I'm not gonna lie, I literally live across the street from a liquor store, so
Oh boy.
it's 100% available to me
Oh
all the time. But
Yikes.
but it wasn't always that case, and I was always making do. Like I've said, I've been a part of this. I've been in this lifestyle for the better part of a decade,
Right.
and I always found a way to get alcohol because that was my thing. Like I just wanted to have alcohol all the time, so I
Right.
made it happen. And I don't know. And I guess it's not just alcohol. There's other factors that are keeping me. I mean, there are other factors in my life that are keeping me in this kind of cycle, I guess. Like I've gone through a lot of things that kind of keep me feeling this way, that I feel like I need to rely on this crutch. Like I went through like this 6-year relationship where I had this child with this woman, and now we're separated, and I haven't seen that child for 3 years, and that does a lot to me mentally. But
Right.
that's a whole other story. So I don't know if we want to get into that on this call, but
Did the drinking start because of that? I mean, it sounds like maybe it's hereditary. Maybe it sounds like your parents are alcoholics, but like, sometimes difficult things in life can trigger those responses. So are you like, did the drinking start because of the child? That's a new variable that we
no. I would say the drinking started when I started drinking when I was a teenager, just kind of casually, but I didn't start drinking heavily until I got into university, and I would say that was kind of what triggered the drinking, was all the stress that I got from being in school and trying to be successful and trying to live up to all these expectations that people put on me growing up. Oh, you're so smart, you're going to do so much, blah, 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 blah. You're going to be so great. And then trying to be that and seeing how hard it was actually to get to university, and
Right.
And trying to cope with that. I mean, I guess it's a lot of factors that are really hard to kind of encapsulate in a short conversation like this. But
it sounds like you're under a lot of constraints, and your story sounds really complicated. It sounds like you were under a lot of expectations growing up for, the things you would do in your life. I can certainly empathize with that. I guess the reason for the addiction is irrelevant. I'm just trying to help, I guess, like help you think through it and figure out, like, I know sometimes for me, when I've struggled with things in the past, it's been helpful to pinpoint, like, what is the reason for this? But sometimes there's not a single reason. Sometimes it's just like, when it rains, it pours. There's been a number of callers like that tonight saying, like, when it rains, it pours. And that can drive us to some pretty rough places. I want to encourage you to, there's so many good ideas in the chat. I don't know which of them you need to hear. I've highlighted a few, but please go read them. And I want to encourage you to find some kind of support group, and maybe even Alcoholics Anonymous. I know a lot of people have some feelings about Alcoholics Anonymous, but there's good support groups and things like this. And those can be great places to, go to regularly and just sit with people who are having the same exact frustration you have, and you can build a lot of great friendships out of those places.
Yeah, I definitely will go through the comments after this call. And yeah, and I thought about AA, and the main thing that turns me off from it is like the religious connotation that is associated with AA, because I am just not a religious person, and I know that it's very heavily embedded in that. And I know there are other support groups, and it's mostly on me that I just haven't put myself out there enough to actually seek the proper support that I need. And I'm kind of talking with you, that I've already come to the logical conclusion that I need to follow with this problem. I just really haven't pushed myself enough to actually pursue it.
Right. Well, maybe sometimes just talking to hundreds of strangers is the first step we need to figure out which direction is the right one.
Yeah.
It can be daunting to just step into a support group. It could be daunting to go on a search for a new therapist. A good therapist can be hard to find. A good support group can be hard to find. So I'm not quite sure what will make this a helpful call for you, but I do hope it at least feels good to just get that off your chest and to know that, a bunch of us out here think your problem is real and appreciate you sharing about it.
Well, I appreciate you listening about it. I honestly didn't expect you to pick up my call, like I said, and I mean, you probably hear this a lot, but I've been watching you since, the hot Kool-Aid video that really made me laugh when I was in high school, and and you've been a big influence on my life since then. So it's amazing to have a conversation with you, and thank you for listening, I guess.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for calling. Call back anytime, and I hope you get the support you need. We're here. If you call back in a week or two and need to process something else, we're still here. Call back anytime.
All right. Thanks, Julian.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay. We're going to take one more call and then take a short break. I'm going to open up these phone lines. And, I just appreciate all of you calling and sharing. Here we go. Hi, thanks for calling.
Oh, hi.
Hi. What you want to talk about?
So this might be a short one. This might be a long one. I have a lot of issues with dealing with suicidal thoughts and self-harm.
I'm having trouble hearing you. Is there any way you can get closer to the phone, or I don't know where you are, and I don't want to know, but is there any way I can hear you better?
Yeah. I can try to speak louder. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's better already. Okay. I heard did you say you're suicidal? Did I hear correctly?
Yeah. I have a lot of trouble. I have a lot of suicidal thoughts. I was diagnosed with suicidal ideation, and I've been self-harming on and off for about 8 or 9 years now.
Okay.
I have a history with self-harm. It started back in middle school, early high school. I was in a very abusive relationship with a guy, and I don't know, I guess throughout the years I see that all of friends and everyone who dealt with depression, I see them recover, and I want so badly to recover, but I don't know how to talk to them about it without triggering them or talking to family, because my family also has a lot of depression, and when I talk to them about it, it's almost like they get taken back a step.
Like they don't understand, or they think you should grow a pair because they have depression too? Why do they have to take a step back?
Well, they all have their depression in different ways, I guess. For me, it's more of a mental thing. I'm also transgender, so it just has a lot to do with that kind of stuff, and it's just a lot of factors. I don't really know what to do or who to reach out to. Even calling the hotline, they usually either hang up or tell me to seek therapy, and I can't really afford therapy. And the ones around here, because I live in the South, they won't serve a transgender.
Oh, really? You can't get a therapist being transgender where you are? Don't tell me where you're from.
A lot of places, no. I had a good therapist.
I didn't realize that.
But she would misgender me, and she told me that maybe if I stopped taking my hormones, then I would feel better, and that I was making a big mistake, and that I'd ruined my life, and I quit going. And they wouldn't prescribe me any of my antidepressants because she strongly believes that if I just detransitioned, then I would feel better. So I've been off of medication for a little over 6 months now.
Okay, I feel like maybe you just gave me I feel like you just dropped some really important information that I might not have fully understood because I'm trying to process some thoughts from the chat that might be helpful in real time. Did you just say that your therapist suggested that if you uh, were to transition fully, that your problems would stop, and then you stopped your medication? I might be missing something.
No, she said that if I detransitioned, like if
Oh,
I stopped taking my hormones,
I see. And so you followed
yeah.
that advice.
You
Is,
said what?
and so are you saying that you followed that advice? Is that what you mean when you say you stopped your medication?
Oh no, I did not take her advice.
I see.
Um, I, I've actually improved a lot since I've transitioned.
I see.
I'm saying that she stopped my antidepressants and my
I see.
anti-anxiety medication.
Right. It doesn't sound like this therapy. It sounds like you're right, that there's not a lot of good support for people in your position where you are. There has to be someone there. Don't tell me again where you are, but like, are you going to like an urban area? Like, I know I know a lot of places in the South are really old school dominated states with, very progressive city centers. Have you tried some like metropolitan areas, getting help from like a downtown area, or are you going to like, you know, middle of nowhere therapists? I'm just trying to get specific about and try to be helpful.
Um, I've looked into getting better therapy. Most of the issues is that because I'm a trans guy, I can't really get a good job living in the South. I actually moved a little more up north, and I got a new job that pays better,
That's good.
and I'm gonna be looking into therapy. Um, thank God I don't live there anymore. But
Right.
a lot of the places that I've been to, I couldn't afford it, and they just they wouldn't help. But I'm gonna try that. But just for now, I'm in this weird middle ground because I just spent like 3,000 on a car, and I just moved into a new apartment. Um, and I'm still dealing with the self harm and not really wanting to be alive anymore. And I don't know. I just feel really stuck in my head.
I'm so sorry. Um, I want to back up and address some of those things you said about the self-harm, but before we get too far from the therapy thing, Offcore from the chat is suggesting betterhelp.com. Have you tried that resource?
Um, I looked into it. Uh, I'm not quite sure how much they charge
I see.
because I have a very low budget.
Right. Yeah, it's a tall order where you are. If you're in the South and oftentimes you got to pay. You you get what you pay for, especially with a therapist. And I've been to some really cheap therapists, and they're not very good. Often you do have to pay for good therapy because those people have a line of people waiting to get in, and it drives the price up, supply and demand and whatnot. Obviously, these are given, but I'm trying to think of ways where you can get the help you need because you got a tall order. You're trans. You're in the South. It sounds like you've made some steps to move towards like more progressive areas where what you're going through isn't so abnormal. I think that's great. Let's what kind of self-harm are you engaging with?
A lot of the times, just cutting. My family doesn't. They know that I self harm, but I don't do it in like the obvious, like the arms, the anything like that. Like I hide it pretty well, to where like if I were to go to a beach, because I mean I've gotten surgery, I can take my shirt off, whatever. Like no one would be able to see because I only do like my legs and my hips. I smoke, which I guess like I've been told that that is self harm in different aspects because I'm not addicted. I have stopped before, just cold turkey, like to get surgery and stuff, but it's just a different coping mechanism, I guess.
Right.
Um, I used to like burn myself. I mean, just a lot. uh,
Yeah, you said you don't want to be here anymore. Is that true?
yeah, like this world, like my new job is really good. But my old job, I'm in the works of getting my name changed, but my whenever I clock in and out, my birth name is displayed on the computers whenever I put in like any sort of order. So I just had to get out of there. Like uh, my mom, whenever she talks about me or introduces me to anybody, she says, "This is my son, but just to make you more comfortable, I'm gonna let you know the history. This one is trans. Their dead name is this," and it's
Wow.
just very toxic and just
Right.
like the society that we live in, all the bills that have been passed. Like I think Colorado, it's legal to discriminate against transgender and gay people.
Right.
Like I just don't feel safe anymore, you know?
Yeah. I'm so sorry. You mentioned you're smoking. What are you smoking?
Not weed. I can't do weed. Uh, just cigarettes.
Okay.
Uh, I don't vape a lot. Uh, I don't know.
Yeah, I can tell you so you feel really unsafe, and I feel like that's really contributing to your well-being. If you don't feel safe, especially, I mean, sounds like you got family members that are really insensitive to this situation. I mean, you might have already realized this, but you've probably got some work to do in rebuilding your social safety net, your social support group, whatever you want to call it, your friend group, your tribe. Um, how old are you?
I am turning 21 in about a week.
Okay. So there is an element here that's really your case is extreme, and I'm not diminishing that, but there is an element here, one element in particular that you're in your early 20s and you feel really alone. I just want to encourage you that that bit of it, even though I realize there's some identity stuff that you're going through that is not being acknowledged or taken seriously, that's very serious. But the loneliness aspect of this, I think there's an element of this that is really normal and natural, which is that you're learning who you are as a person, including this new identity. And it's going to take you time. Might take 10 years. Might take. I mean, I'm 35 and still, I've developed a good group of. I know who my close friends are. But I'm all the time um, surprised when I make a new close friend because it's not normal. That stuff takes time to develop. So I just want to encourage you that at least in that one aspect where you might feel really alone, if you can hang in there, if you can at least not give up on that one part, I believe that part will get easier as you. It doesn't sound like you've fully uh, taken the steps to change your name yet. It feels like you're still in the process of some of that stuff. You mentioned you're at work and your dead name shows up on the clock or on the computer when you clock in and out. That type of stuff must be really hard. I don't know what that's like. Um, so I'm just noting that there's two things going on here. One, it seems like you're really alone and you need some good people in your corner who can be there for you in this time, and that could look a number of ways. And then in this other thing, you've got this whole other thing going on where you're really misunderstood by your family, which is serious. Um, and I wonder how much of that is, in your opinion, contributing to the suicidal ideation.
Um, so when I say family, the people that I talk to about this is I'm the youngest, but my older sisters, I have two of them, and my older brother, who have all dealt with depression and self-harm. Um, I can talk to them. My brother relates to me on a lot of different things. Because I mean, we're both guys. um, Sometimes talking to them, uh, they tend to relapse a little bit, and I mean, I never take the advice that I give them. I tell them that they should reach out and they should, get help or get therapy. Um, I'll check back on chat later, but I want to know if BetterHelp actually helps. Because I've heard very mixed reviews on that.
I can't
Uh,
honestly say. I just mentioned it because Offcore is a name from the chat that I've recognized, and they've had a number of helpful thoughts, as have many others from the chat, and that's one of those names that I saw them say that, and I thought it might be helpful. But I honestly don't know. I'm just trying to help you spitball here. That's part of what this is I sense that you've exhausted a lot of your options, and you're looking for a way to feel better about this. And I'm concerned because you said you're suicidal and you're self-harming, and you're going through a lot. I mean, I can only imagine what it's like to be in a situation where, not only are family and friends not fully understanding what you're going through, but you're in the South where this stuff is really taboo.
I guess I'm just uh, trying to grasp any reason, like, not to leave. Like,
Well,
I don't want to
I
because I
see.
know that that would hurt so many people.
Right. Well, I know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to be you. I don't know I'm not trans. We have had very different experiences. Let me be clear about that. I'm aware of that. But um, I know what it's like to have suicidal thoughts. And that is a really misunderstood thing. Some thoughts that have helped me in those places where I've just not been, sometimes you're in a place where some people are in places where, um, it sounds like that's right where you are, where you're like, you just said it. I'm grasping for a reason to not leave. That stuck out to me and resonated with me. And it sounds like it has with some people from the chat. What's helped me in those times is, just getting really basic about things and getting really impersonal about things. It's helped me to get really impersonal about myself and just take my personal self out of the equation and just thinking about, like, what's going on in the world right now that would keep me from leaving. And, one thing that's really helped me is just realizing that, like, there was another caller who called in a few nights ago with some suicidal thoughts, and I referenced this same thing, so I'll repeat it, and I hope it's helpful, is that, you could have been born anything. You could have been born a lizard. You could have been born a chimpanzee. You could have been born a lion. All these things would have been cool in their own right, obviously. Not dogging any of these animals. All of them are majestic creatures, obviously. But you were born a human being. You were born with a highly developed prefrontal cortex. You were born with the most sophisticated hardware on the planet. And sure, there may be billions of us now. But why is that? That's the only reason it's possible for billions of people to be here is because of the Industrial Revolution and, the revolutions with soil and nitrogen and, steam power and things like this. And what I'm getting at is that these are people the people who made these things possible are people who didn't give up on themselves. Sure, plenty of people during the Industrial Revolution died by suicide. I'm sure of that. I don't know the numbers on that, but I'm sure it happened. I'm sure that, there's always a statistic on those numbers because people do it. But the people who have made life today possible, that brought us you here today, whenever you were born, are people who didn't give up, who kept surviving entropy. We all have there's problem. Every day is problems. Problems are everywhere. They never go away. Every day is a problem, and especially in civilized life. And that's what humans do. We use our brains to invent solutions to problems. And we do that every day by not giving up on ourselves or the things that we believe in. And I don't know if that helps you, but it really helps me.
It actually really does help me.
Great.
It's really nice to talk to somebody, honestly.
Great.
I do have a question.
What's that?
So how does being off of social media help with not fueling depression and uh, not being so anxious when you're not on your phone, I guess. Because I found that every time I try to like delete social media, like I always just come crawling back to it. Um, yeah.
Well, you got to realize that our phones are designed to, I mean, that's another addiction. There's been a number of people calling in with addictions. And our phones are designed to be addictive. It doesn't make them bad things. I've gone, I'm not anti-social media, and most people might think that I am because of how little I use it. I just posted my second or third social media post since 2020 last week, and it was promoting this live stream. My only 3 posts since 2020 have been promoting 2 or 3 out of now 8 of these live streams. So if that tells you about anything about my prioritization of social media, but I don't believe it's a bad thing. But we got to acknowledge that what it is. It's a dopamine response. We turn it on because we're looking for something, and it can't ultimately deliver. But it can keep us complacent for about 10 minutes or however long we're comfortable doom scrolling. And again, like, it's not a bad thing. Like, this is how we get it. This is how we digest information. This is how we get information now. And we're in this transition phase with the technology where we're trying to figure out, like, we are years, in my opinion, from discovering what this is fully doing to us. And we're going to find better ways to implement it, healthier way. We're going to have to find healthier ways to implement it. And we totally will. I'm not in the position, that's not what I do for work. I don't solve those. Those aren't the kind of problems that interest me in, solving practically. But I just believe that, like, it's getting better all the time. I mean, like, we were just talking about MySpace with a previous caller. Like, how much better is Twitter than MySpace? Exponentially better, even with all of its flaws. It's a really long-winded way of saying that, like, yeah, social media is a double-edged sword for sure. And a lot of people are depressed by it because it's fakery, streamlined. It's streamlined fake. Anybody can pretend to be anything, and it's killing authenticity. It's killing. There's no nuance. Makes a really bad headline. Makes a really bad tweet. It's easier to exploit, like, really loud ideas. A lot of these algorithms. That's why they stimulate our amygdala. It takes a lot. Stimulating your limbic system or your prefrontal cortex, the computer can't do that yet. All they can do is stimulate our fear response, our fight or flight response. And so that's what they do. And they, give us a dopamine rush for like 90 seconds, and then we refresh and we do it again. So I'm not sure specifically what you're asking for my thoughts on with social media, but it's not a simple answer for me, as I'm probably making quite clear. I just have a lot of thoughts about it.
Well, I like the analogy. It actually gives me more insight than I had previously. So
okay. Are you okay? I don't want to hang up. I mean, you mentioned you're suicidal. So, I mean, what would make this helpful for you? I mean, I don't want to hang up until I know you're okay.
I'm okay. I think talking just to anybody, because I mean, I said before, calling a hotline whenever I'm feeling bad, they don't help. I actually had a call like get hung up on me because my connection was bad. And when I called back, the lady was like, "You've already called this number. You have to call back in 24 hours," and hung up on me. And I felt so terrible. So just talking to anybody is good. I feel okay now.
Well, I'm really sorry that you didn't get the attention you deserved on those kind of calls. I hope that you understand that those are not people that think you have no problem. These are just bad business models. These are, I don't know who you called and I don't want to know. But like a lot of these hotlines, these helplines, they're not setting themselves up to serve a lot of people. And they probably just don't have good solutions for how to, maybe they don't have good listeners, or I don't know what it is. It's a large reason I wanted to start this place, which is a much more maybe dangerous platform because I've yet to figure out how this is all going to work. But we just This is why we're doing this. Is for people like you that just need somewhere to talk. And I hope that it's
I will
at
say that
least
this is a lot, I feel a lot safer calling this because at least if I say that, I mean, I definitely am not, but if I were to say that I was planning to, then you wouldn't like track my location. You would just talk. You would
right.
just be here. And that is the bare minimum, which is what we need. And I really appreciate what you're doing.
I appreciate you calling in and sharing. That's what this is all about. Um, I'm serious. Please call back in if you need to talk again in the future. I'm glad to hear that you've. Let me ask you this before I let you go, because like I said, I'm concerned. What's going to be different about tomorrow for you?
Tomorrow will be day 2 of my new job. I have yet to be dead named. They haven't even mentioned me being trans. And the hiring manager said that he doesn't plan to talk about it in front of anybody because it would make me more comfortable if he didn't. So I feel like I chose a really good place to move,
Good.
and I feel like I could actually make a few friends here.
Great. I'm so glad to hear that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for
I
you.
feel like things are going to be okay.
Great. Well, please call back anytime in the future.
Okay. And I will just say before I go, my siblings and I have watched you since we were really little, and we reference your videos all the time. Hell, like a week ago, I was eating breakfast with my sister, and she said, "Can you pass me the milk?" And I just started laughing at myself.
It's a real thing.
So
People say
thank
it.
you so much.
It's real. Thank you so much for your support and also for calling in and sharing tonight in this way. Call back anytime. Have a great tomorrow.
Great. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Have a great time.
All right, guys, we are going to take a quick intermission just so I can clear my head and listen better for these next callers. Don't go anywhere. It's just going to be a short 5-minute or less intermission, and we will be right back after that. Thanks for waiting. All right. See if I missed anything in the chat before we open this back up. It does not appear that I have. Now I'm just going to get some more lemon. I've seen a number of comments about starting a Discord for this, which will happen, I believe. I've been thinking about that the last few days. That will probably happen. Seems like a great idea. Would you guys like that? A place to kind of get together and chat about things when these live streams are not happening in off times? Okay, good. Seems like people like that. I've been thinking that would be a good idea. So we'll make that happen this week. I'm going to do that this week. There will be a Discord coming. Great. Seems like that's going over really well. I agree. I wish I could remember the original person to suggest that, but I've just seen it dozens of times, so let's do it. I love it. Okay. I also want to thank Ryan from the chat for the super chat earlier. Much appreciated. Thank you, sir. Actually, or ma'am. Ryan could be anything. It's one of those names. All right. I'm going to open up these phone lines. Hi, thanks for calling. Hello?
Hello?
Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi, Julian. I'm dealing with some issues.
Okay. Tell me more. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's just a lag.
What's your issue?
My issue is that I'm having an issue with self-loathing.
You don't love yourself.
No. No, I don't.
How old are you? You sound really young.
I'm 32.
32? Wow.
32. And well, and it's not just I feel self-loathing, but I have a problem with I don't want to accept love from other people sometimes. It's not all the time, it's just sometimes.
Okay. Are you self-harming? Well, to what extent are you loathing yourself?
No, I had brief in the past when I was a lot younger, I would have suicidal ideation, but I've mostly gone through that. It's just it's most recently taken a form of an issue with my religious beliefs.
Okay, so you have
and I don't know if I want to go into that too much.
Sure. Anything that is of relevance to the self-loathing, that's serious.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about the religious stuff.
Well, it's one of those things where, I'm supposed to, accept love from God, and I'm supposed to accept love from other people. And sometimes I just want to say no. Leave me alone. I don't want to. I don't want people to love me because I can't love myself.
I see. So are you, if you don't mind sharing, I'm just trying to understand, is this, don't tell me where you're from, but what religion is this that you're struggling with?
I'm Christian. I'm on the fence of like 2 or 3 denominations.
I see.
Yeah.
So why don't you love yourself? Tell me more about that. What do you hate about yourself?
Well, I recently got diagnosed with a neurotypical disorder
Which one?
or neural ADHD.
Okay, well that's big progress you've made in identifying that. You have a diagnosis for ADHD?
Yeah. I've been diagnosed. I was late diagnosed. So it's most probable I had the introverted subtype.
Okay, so you probably get really heady with your ADHD. You're probably really stuck in your head.
Yes. I'm always distracted by my own thoughts and my own dreams and my own worries. That's the biggest issue.
Right. Sounds like maybe some runaway amygdala stuff, like you're constantly in this fight or flight. I'm just sensing that you've got a lot of... It's actually funny. The reason I thought you sounded really young is because I sensed that you had a lot of energy. It's saying like you had this, and I thought maybe there was some, I guess I was misappropriating some anxiety. It sounds like you've got some anxiety. It makes sense now that you said ADHD. And I'm wondering, like, are you making problems up in your head? I'm not saying that they're not there, but like if you're ADHD, your brain you probably have a lot of electricity in your brain. Your brain probably goes really fast. And
yes,
and that could be
it does.
Okay. Yeah, I've also wondered if I have something like this. My mother is epileptic, and epilepsy is just, simply it's just a bunch of electricity in your brain. Yeah, and I'm not epileptic, but that stuff is hereditary to an extent, so I've wondered what that looks like for me.
Yeah, I've dealt with people who had, I think it was epilepsy.
Right.
Once or twice. I've had to interact with epileptic people.
Right. It's not about me or my mom. I'm just trying to I'm just trying to let you know that I can empathize with what you're going through, and that I've also dealt with some self-loathing things. So I don't know if that helps you to know that you're not alone. But I think it's great that you know that you have ADHD, because that's a huge step. It feels like, if your brain goes really fast and you're really good at identifying problems, and like are you the kind of person that can walk into a room and just instantly pinpoint like 8 things that are going to go horribly wrong?
It's not exactly like that. If I'm going into a room ready to perceive problems that might go wrong, I will find them.
Right.
But half the time I'm oblivious.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of this self-loathing thing.
Yeah.
I'm not doing too good of a job. I apologize.
Well, sorry. Part of it's, I think, kind of a dysphoria about my body. Not that I'm trans, but like you noticed, I have a very high voice, and that's why I think you mistook me for a child. I'm also a very short man, and I think that has caused me some severe issues with gender identity.
Okay.
And a lot of other things.
Do you want to talk about the gender identity stuff?
I've been doing research on it, and I have very nuanced and complicated ideas about it that it would take a long time to discuss, and I don't think that's right for this kind of situation right now. But
if it's irrelevant, then yeah, let's not cover it. I'm concerned.
A little while back, I started cross-dressing, and part of me thinks it might be one of those ADD or ADHD phases. We ADHD people can sometimes hyper-focus onto a thing for short periods of time.
Right.
I mean, I've been learning a lot about it, so I can talk about it very in depth with people, but I think that would be in some ways a distraction from what the central issue is about my dysphoria, about me loathing myself. I have just a lot of issues that I'm dealing with, a lot of sin, I guess you could say, that I'm dealing with.
Yeah, it sounds like there's this disparity between. We haven't delved into the gender identity stuff, but I zeroed in on that a moment ago because you mentioned that this was about religion originally, and it seems like those two are at odds with each other, depending on what type of Christianity you're into.
It's that's part of it, but that's not the central reason. I mean, the rationale, the two things in some ways are separate, though there is a minor conflict, and I've seen the gauntlet of arguments, both Christian and pro, Christian and con, Christian and doesn't care.
Right. Well, so it sounds like there's a bunch of things going on. It sounds like you've got some I can't remember exactly how you put it, but some self-image issues. Like you mentioned you're short, and you mentioned you don't like your body, and so it sounds like there's some self-worth stuff happening from you're not happy with your physical appearance. I could be misinterpreting that, but it sounds like you mentioned body image issues. You mentioned that some gender stuff we haven't gotten into, and you mentioned religion. And these seem like three really big pillars to me. So I'm wondering which one of them you want to discuss. Which one of them do you think has the most weight? Which one do you want to go into on this call?
I'm not good at making decisions.
Okay, can I prod around? Do I have your permission to prod around?
Yeah,
go
ahead. Go ahead and prod. I'll answer what I can, and I'll say no to what I can't. But it's one of those things I want to talk to somebody about this, but it's hard to find someone who talks about this. I try to lean on my friends, and my friends I have friends. I have good family, but I feel like I have to. That might be something to get into. I feel like I have this ego that I'm trying to prop up, this facade of who I am, and it's not fully a facade, but it's only one aspect of me, and I think they would hate the other aspects of me. Like, no one knows who I truly am, and if they did, they would hate me. Like I hate myself.
Why do you think that? Let's dive into that. I agree. That's a good place. Why do you think they would hate you like you hate yourself? Tell me why you hate yourself specifically. What do you do that you hate?
I'd rather not talk about that.
This is anonymous.
I know it's anonymous. I'm just... But my voice isn't anonymous. And I'm afraid someone will be out there listening in, and...
You're somewhat obscured by we do have a filter on your voice that's obscuring your voice a bit. We're not changing the pitch or anything because we want people to be able to understand everything and not be lost by. I mean, changing the pitch is intense, but we are obscuring your voice a bit with some effects.
Okay. Well, I do have a pornography addiction.
Okay.
I think it's a way of self-medicating for the ADHD, a way of, I was trying to boost my dopamine without medication, which now I have, but, it's one of those things I'm still struggling with.
Okay. And then you mentioned that it seemed like you felt like there was some kind of expectation that you're not meeting. I don't know if that expectation comes from yourself or from family. For an expectation for yourself. You mentioned your ego. What's that about?
I feel like I need to be perfect for people.
Why do you think that could be? Were your parents really hard on you?
No, my parents weren't hard on me. I mean, they were. I'd say they were strict, but not overly strict. And I think they were just trying to figure out ways I could succeed with my ADHD, which is why it went undiagnosed for so long. Was they were actually very supportive and helped me through school. And once I lost those support structures, everything kind of spiraled a little bit.
I see. I'm wondering if you're highly intelligent. You're very well spoken.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering if there's, I mean, you said you're ADHD. Often, ADHD and, a number of neurotypical diagnoses are associated with really high IQs. And a lot of really high IQ people are associated with being outcasts and things like this. So I'm wondering if maybe you've felt unable to have your value recognized by, say, average people.
I don't like thinking I'm necessarily intelligent. I'm afraid that would just boost my ego even more.
Wow, you really do hate yourself, don't you? Sorry, I'm not laughing because I think you hate yourself, but I'm just getting real poignant. Like, it sounds like...
No, I get it. I can laugh at my own insecurities, too.
Okay, good. That's good. See, you're a smart person. Yeah, I have no doubt you're a smart person. I'll just get real blunt here because I'm not sure what you need, so I'm going to get real blunt. You gave me permission to prod.
Well,
For those who are
Yep.
just tuning in, we've got a caller who is experiencing some self-worth issues. They've mentioned they hate themselves and they don't know how to accept love from others because they feel that if others truly got to know them, they would hate them as much as they hate themselves, which I believe is really serious. They mentioned they have some gender identity issues. We have not delved into those. They mentioned that that they have some body image issues, which we've delved only a little bit into. So we're still kind of just trying to figure out what this caller needs tonight. So a little recap there. So to you, the caller, I am, just to be really direct, sensing this. I'm sensing the tension that you're under because you've got a lot of axioms pulling on each other. You've got this religion thing that which we haven't delved. I don't know. You mentioned Christian, but I don't know. You mentioned it was kind of nuanced.
I understand. So with the religion thing, I believe in God, but from my own. But it's a very knowledge based. It's not an in-depth feeling thing, and I'm missing that. So I've been a Christian my whole life, but I've had gone back and forth with my belief.
Okay.
Eventually figuring out understand. I realize that there's no definitive proof for God, but there's enough evidence that I've seen to decide that he's real, and the Bible is possibly the closest understanding we have of him. As you can probably tell, I'm seeing this as a very, concise thing, a very...
Right.
I'm trying to say it as a logical thing, a knowledge-based thing, but I lack the faith part. I lack the love part.
Well, there's nothing one can know about. I mean, it's just always seemed kind of crazy to me that like people think that they can know everything God is. It's like, isn't that the point of your faith? Is that like you have faith and that you don't know it? Like, isn't that why we call it faith and not knowledge or science?
Yeah.
It's like these things are different.
That's true.
It's not to say one's right and one's
that's
wrong.
hard for me.
Right, I sense that. It's not to say one's right and one's wrong, but you've got a real dilemma because you have this real analytical mind, it sounds like, and you're really at odds with your faith. And I don't think that's really the crux of the issue, though. You mentioned some self-body and I can't remember the actual term you used, but you mentioned you're not happy with the way you look, and you mentioned that you've got some gender dysphoria. It sounds like that we haven't delved into.
That's a complicated issue. So
right,
that's a very complicated issue.
I can only imagine. But again, you've got these three huge pillars going on all at the same time, and they can't all. It sounds like you've got some cognitive dissonance. Like you can't maintain those three pillars. Two of them are going to have to go, or maybe one of them. Or actually, no, they all have to go. Well, they don't all have to go, but you have these body image issues. That one definitely needs to go. Like people ought to. There's a real representation issue. I blame a lot of Western media for that. Like from the last 30 years, a lot of underrepresentation of different types of people, and Barbie dolls and stuff like this. And it's like people just think this is what people are, and I'm only naming two examples, obviously, but I'm trying to go fast. This is a real problem in the West. Like there's a severe lack of representation of the diversity that is so beautiful in humanity, and it's a real problem because people like you. I don't know what you look like. I've never seen a picture of you, but like I'm sure you're beautiful. I'm sure you're beautiful just the way you are. Like it's just so ridiculous, this homogenous thing we've been trained to accept, and so much so that most of us, if not all of us, have severe, even supermodels have body image issues, and a lot of them are anorexic and shit like this, It's like, where does it end? It's just how we're being programmed.
No, I get that.
So, so to get back to the point, you got these three pillars, and I think two of them have to go at least. Like I don't think the religion one has to go, but I think the self-worth stuff I'm concerned about, and the you keep deflecting when we touch on the gender stuff, even though it's anonymous. I don't want to pressure you to share if you're uncomfortable, but that's what this place is for. You are exactly what we're doing this for. So if you want to delve into the gender stuff, let's do it.
Well, the pill. I got distracted, I'm afraid, but okay, so if I could write it down, I now have pen and paper. If I could write it down, what are those three pillars again?
You've got your religion pulling on you, and you've got your gender pulling on you, and you've got some self-worth pulling on you. And these three things, at least two of them are at odds, is my point.
I think you're blowing the gender thing out of proportion. I've been able to
I just don't know anything about it. You haven't shared, so I don't know anything about it. And you mentioned that, and I know that's a huge thing right now that a lot of people are. Our last caller was.
I know. I'm.
If it's not so big, let's talk about it.
From the research I've done about this, I'm seeing gender as similar in some ways to ADHD. I might be completely wrong, so please don't quote me on that. But it's looking like it's a spectrum disorder similar to ADHD. So you have some people most people are cisgender. They see themselves as and correlate their behaviors with the gender the sex they're born as.
Right.
And then you have people who are slightly off, and they're gender atypical, and this can range from having, just doing gender atypical stuff, this can show up as gender, intermediate or temporary gender dysphoria, which I think I had, and then there's the more permanent gender dysphoria, which the previous caller probably had.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so again, I'm hearing two things. So I'm not trying to be insensitive, but you mentioned the gender identity things, and then you said you didn't want to talk about it, and so I kind of backed off of that, and then we talked about religion and some self-worth issues and things like that. And so I'm not trying to blow out of proportion the gender stuff, but again, I'm doing it because I'm someone that grew up in the church. My parents were pastors; they still are. Grew up in church leadership. My parents, I grew up with them in church leadership, so I'm very familiar with how the church has historically treated people in the LGBTQ community, so I'm immediately sensing that, and maybe incorrectly, maybe you go to some really progressive church, but you mentioned that you mentioned that you're trying to find, you mentioned there's a lot of uncertainty in your faith. And so that seems like a natural place to take this conversation, but I don't want to pry. And yet we still haven't really covered anything there. It doesn't seem like. I mean, we've covered a little bit.
So let me get this straight. You want to move on to the religious aspects of the pill?
No,
I'm just
saying that the religion, there's a tension between the religion and the trans stuff. Obviously, I mean that's a lot of we've had more than a few trans people call in. And religion is religion and politics are a huge recurring theme. So I'm just like, I guess I'm still in doubt that there's no correlation there for you. That there's nothing. You got a lot of cognitive dissonance. It sounds like, and I'm just not convinced yet that there's nothing between the religion and the trans stuff.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to process through what you're saying.
It's okay. I'm trying to think of a different way to say it.
I know what you're saying, but I'm trying to process a good answer too. That that there's.
Yeah. Take your time.
You mentioned Peterson, and one of his things is speak carefully and concisely. So I'm trying to do that.
Right. Yeah. Take your time.
I think that there is the issue where if we could move on to the religious aspect, I'll get a little bit more particular with that. Currently, I've been undergoing something called RCIA. Are you familiar with that?
I don't believe so. Tell me more. I'm not great with acronyms.
RCIA, it's Catholic. It's Catholic theology. I've been attending a Catholic church recently.
Okay.
But I'm not Catholic, and that seems to actually be the one I'm having the most difficulty with. Because there are people I'm hanging out with and I really like, but we have these differences, and I feel, I'm separated from the church, effectively, because that's how Catholics work. And part of it's the self-loathing. Part of it's the self-loathing that I don't know if I can accept love from other people, and if I can't join the church, should I be sticking with these people because I might be hurting them, and I don't want to hurt them.
I see. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. That's very noble of you. Very admirable. You're thinking of, you don't want to challenge their beliefs.
Or I want to be cognizant of being careful with it.
Right. You're trying to be respectful. That's admirable.
Thank you.
So why don't you think people would love you if they got to see that part of you? I already love you.
Well, thanks, but
like, why can't more people think that way? You know?
I know it doesn't make sense. Well, because I think I might be wrong.
About what?
Everything.
Are you talking about your faith versus your the cognitive dissonance you mentioned? You know, we were talking about knowledge and faith, and for a minute, is that it? Like you're worried that maybe you're wrong about yourself. Like maybe you're wrong. Maybe you feel like I don't want to lead you into maybes, but like you mentioned you're trans, you mentioned you're religious, you mentioned these are pillars, you mentioned you have some body image issues, and I'm just thinking, like, is it possible that you are afraid that you're wrong, that it's okay to be yourself?
I guess the issue is in some ways, I'm in the dark of who I am on my own. Like, I know myself, I know the bad parts about myself, but I'm having a hard time knowing the good parts about myself. And even when people try to tell me about them, I feel like, no, that can't be right. You don't know the real me that's an evil tyrant. I actually talked to him. I talked to my therapist about the tyrant part of me, quote unquote.
Tell me about the tyrant part of you. This is anonymous. We're not collecting any information.
I know.
We're obscuring your voice.
The tyrant part of me is the person who says, you know, you're weak, you're never going to succeed, and you're a failure. And I am very much afraid of failure, and there's this thing, I tell people about this, I'll tell my religious friends about this, and they're saying, oh, that's a demon telling you a lie. Well, I might agree that, yes, demons exist, but they're not lying. They're technically telling the truth, and that's how they snag you.
Emphasis on technically.
Yes, technically. And so, well, in some ways, there are times, and there are times I don't feel like that. Most of the time, in some ways, I don't feel this way, but it's more of a matter I just don't think about these things. When I'm distracted myself with other things, I'm fine. But
right. Again, I'm sounding to me like you got a lot of cognitive dissonance between. Sounds like your faith is really important to you, and yourself is really important to you, and yet, my guess, this is a shot in the dark. We've not been talking for. It sounds like it looks like 32 minutes we've been talking. So I don't know you.
Oh Lord, I'm so sorry. I don't want to tie up your phone.
No. That's not what I'm saying. We've had callers on for an hour before. I actually stated from the outset of this that there may be episodes where we talk to people for 2 hours. There may be callers that take up the whole session. There's no time limit on this. But my point is that it sounds like you really want to be okay with yourself, and there's some pressure coming from external sources. And I'm not calling that your religion, but it sounds like there's some pressure from something. And that maybe you really believe that pressure, more so than you believe in yourself.
The external pressure.
I don't know what it is, the external pressure. We have,
No, you're right about it being an external. There is something there. But I can't put my finger on it. It's like I'm going down the list. Religion, maybe a little bit. Family, maybe a tiny bit there. Society, which is very fluid. I've been, and I don't like to blame society because I've lived in a bunch of different societies and they're very complex.
Yeah, good observation. I agree.
They're very complex, and I've had to live in a lot of them. So,
right. So you think it sounds like it is coming from, I'm not going to call it your religion, but from some religious source.
In a sense, you might be onto something. I'm not so much religious source, but my own idea of perfectionism.
And what is that
and
idea?
I'm having a hard time letting go of my. Sorry, what?
Where does that sense of internal sense of perfectionism come from? What does that look like, and where does it come from? Do you think?
I don't know. I am watching on the chat, which is why, the beginning was a little bit disjointed, as I had to mute the audio from the video. Someone threw up an ADHD comes with a lot of internal pressure, and yeah, it's my own expectations. A lot of ADHD people want to be normal. We want to, we try to put ourselves, and external people expect us to be normal. ADHD is very misunderstood, and it's complicated, and it's both overdiagnosed and underdiagnosed, in that a lot of people who don't have it are diagnosed, and a lot of people who do have it, are underdiagnosed.
Yeah. Well, what is normal? I don't want to interrupt, but what is normal? We get normal from the Greeks. We get normal from
distribution charts.
Yeah, exactly. And
there is a normal. I'm outside it. Now, everyone is abnormal in a sense, but this is one way where I'm definitively abnormal.
Yeah, I'm not saying there. Yeah, of course, I'm not diminishing that you sound like you've been in a very unique situation. I'm not discounting that. I'm just trying to encourage you that it sounds like there's some sense of self-hatred we're trying to get to the bottom of. You mentioned you have some self-body issues. You mentioned there's some gender dysphoria potentially. You mentioned that your religion is really important to you, and that there's not been a bunch of support. Or you've sensed some pressure there, I should say, maybe. But that, and I'm trying to figure out, is there some icon of human perfection that you're comparing yourself to that is just I don't know, maybe advertising or Disney movies even, or none of these things are bad in and of themselves. I've worked in advertising and I've worked with Disney. I think these are great these are great things. But we started out by talking about how the distorted view we have here in the West of just what we're talking about Barbie dolls and porn and I'm just wondering, I'm trying to get to the bottom of what is this thing that you think you should be that you cannot be.
if I may say, maybe what I'm trying to idealize Ned Flanders, if that makes sense.
I love the reference. That's amazing. I was not expecting that.
Well,
Ned Flanders.
I was actually thinking about this the other day, but not even. This is actually the first time I've seen this part of your show. I've seen other videos you've done, the shorts and everything. But yeah, I'm thinking of how Homer Simpson hates Ned Flanders because Ned Flanders is perfect,
right?
Comparatively, at least the old Ned Flanders before he was Flanderized.
In public, he's perfect.
And even when he's not perfect, Flanders is humble about his perfection. Flanders just thinks he's normal, and here's Homer thinking, no, you're so much better than me, and I hate that.
Yeah, but Homer is the dumb one.
No, Homer's not dumb. He's
dull. He's pretty dull.
Okay,
I mean, he's honest. He's honest.
So there is thought he's also ADHD because Bart has ADHD.
That's interesting.
We could all get into that.
He's dumb, but he's honest. He's endearing. I wouldn't call him smart. I think that's part of. I think your observation is correct. I'm not arguing with you. I think it's a hilarious comparison, and it totally works. I'm not arguing with you at all. But yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that. So you feel like it's interesting you mentioned Ned Flanders because he's the one that's like hoity-toity, like has all kinds of.
And I like that. I want to be that.
You just cracked it for me. Okay, you just cracked it for me. That's what I was curious. I did not expect you to say that just there. That was a mystery to me the whole time. It sounds like you have some. I mean, gosh, like I'm only going here because you brought up Ned Flanders now, and I was not really zeroing in on your religion before. But you mentioned Ned Flanders. You're talking about an idealistic son of a bitch. Like that's what Ned Flanders is. He's like just this guy. He's impossible. And it's a great reference, and it just kind of cracked it for me when, on the heels of that, like, I'm thinking that, like, you have some kind of, I don't know what it is specifically. You haven't mentioned what denomination of Christianity you are, and I think that's irrelevant, so we haven't really discussed it. But it sounds like you've got some real turmoil with religious ideals, potentially, most probably, in my opinion, at this point, that are tugging on some body image issues maybe, and also the gender stuff that we haven't discussed very much.
I think the gender stuff is more related to the body issues. The fact that I'm really short for a guy, and my voice is typically higher in register. I sing alto in the choir. So.
Right. So where's your head at when we're talking about this here? Like, I'm curious. I'm still trying to. I feel like I'm in a dark room trying to feel the walls out.
Okay.
What has resonated with you? Where do you think we are? Where do we go from here? I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I want to know where you think we're going next. Where we're going next?
Well, I'm going to be talking to my therapist in the next week. I'm pretty sure I have to check my calendar because I wouldn't function without a calendar.
Okay. Very organized, sounds like.
No, forced organization upon my own self, because otherwise I wouldn't be.
Okay.
I'm talking to them about this issue. I'm not really sure where to go though. And that's kind of the problem. I think we've kind of understood what my ideal's going for, but I don't. And part of me doesn't want to get rid of my ideal. That's the thing. Is in some ways I don't want to get rid of my ideal because that strives me to be better.
define better. And we haven't talked about your
Define
ideals yet, but what is
better.
better? We'll start with better. What's better?
Better would be married. Better would be have a family. Better would be, I guess, happy, I guess.
Can I ask you some real pointed questions about the gender stuff? Because I sent.
Yeah.
Okay, I can.
Yeah.
Okay. Are
I'll
you
answer as best I can.
okay? I'm asking because it seems like it's been off limits, and I don't want to pry, but I also kind of do want to pry because we're still on the phone and you haven't hung up on me yet. So I'm wondering, like, are you at a place where you're like not expressing yourself fully? Is there a part of yourself that's like not known to anyone, or is there like with the gender stuff specifically, like, are you I don't know, like, are you dabbling in that but not committed yet, or is there something that you think is you've not answered directly? I don't know how you identify or anything.
I did answer a little bit.
Right, you did a little bit.
Cryptically.
Yep.
A little bit. I do dabble a little bit. I have it for the past several months.
Okay.
It's I feel like I'm a fairly effeminate guy, and that worries me.
Okay.
Well, like, I feel like I'm a guy.
Okay.
It's the best way to describe it would be that I feel I wish I was more manly. I wish I felt more masculine. Like, I'm a cis guy, but I feel like I'm not masculine enough, if that makes sense.
Not masculine enough. Well, what does that mean? I mean, this was like my problem with gender in general. It's like, first of all, people should be able to express themselves however they want. Like, what is gender? It's like, that's just your, not being insensitive, but it's just like, that's just
well,
your.
I have an answer for you, but some people might deem it insensitive.
Yeah, well, I know. I'm fully aware there are answers to these things, and I'm not trying to diminish anyone by saying that. But my point is that, like, it ought not to be controversial how people express themselves. That's what I mean by that. And you mentioned that you feel like an effeminate guy, and you don't feel like you're masculine enough. And I'm just wondering, what is masculine enough? Like, every person has a different distribution of estrogen and testosterone anyways. It's not like every guy has like 100% testosterone and that's what makes a guy a guy. It's like, I'm probably a fairly effeminate male, even though I'm very male. And I don't know that to be the case. I'm very definitely all male. But my point is that, like, I don't like sports. I get sports. I like going to sporting events and stuff like that. But I'm not like, and I'm competitive, but not like
sports.
Right? Yeah. I'm just this isn't about me, but I'm trying to relate to you. That, like, everyone's different. Everybody has everyone. Nope. There's no. That's why I'm saying, like, I think that it's just kind of. I'm trying to give you a sense of just peace, knowing that it's okay to be whatever you are, because I think that, and it seems like the chat agrees with me that it's like, you just you are what you are.
Well, that just gives me more. So it doesn't become so much gender identity issues. It's just more in the case I'm having identity issues, because who is that? Who is that? And as I said, people have told me good things about me, but I don't believe them. It's hard for me to believe them.
It sounds like
as I said, I always feel like they don't know the real me. They don't see
maybe
the
they
man
don't.
behind the curtain.
Maybe they don't
Sorry,
see the
what?
real you. Maybe you're not comfortable showing them the real you, because you're scared they won't like it. And I guess my point is that maybe it sounds like, based on the stories you've shared, maybe some of those people won't like it, but that doesn't make it wrong. Opinions don't make things wrong. Like you mentioned, you're struggling with your faith in general, trying to decide, between a number of denominations. Like that to me signals that you're undecided on some things about where, it sounds like there's some axioms that are really serious to you that you don't know where that falls for you in the system you've committed to, the religious. I don't know if it's like it sounds like you're Christian, so I guess like your religious system you've committed to. Yeah, it sounds like, I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but that's what it sounds like to me.
No, I kind of see where you're going. I can't just easily. I can't just easily drop the things I know to be true. I mean that would be lying to myself, right?
Repeat it again. What would be lying to yourself? I apologize.
Dropping the things I know to be true. The way way I do things is I tend to aggregate a lot of information about various things, and I try not to live in a quote echo chamber unquote.
Okay.
And but what I do is I'll take information, and it's very rare that I'll accept it and accept it. It's more typical that either I'll reject the information if it seems completely ludicrous, or if there seems to be a nugget of truth, I'll try to reconcile it within the broader scope of
right
of the body of knowledge I have. And
you're weighing a lot of factors.
Well,
you take your decisions seriously, and you weigh a lot of factors.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I sense that about you. That's why I'm thinking that this is going to be really difficult for you while you're trying to figure out how to express yourself freely with so many axioms that are at odds. You've got a bunch of things that are at odds. It sounds like, including even which sect of Christianity or Protestant. I don't know. It sounds like there's some more Catholic things going on.
One parent is one denomination, another parent is another denomination. Grew up in a whole host of different religions. Like, I moved all over the world. Literally all over the world.
Right. Yeah, you're very well cultured. I gather that. Maybe that's another thing that's complicated about this for you. I mean, that can make religion really difficult, because what is religion? Religion is very productive, in my opinion, very productive way to cultivate nationalism. And I don't mean nationalism in the way that gets headlines today, like we think we're the best and we're the only ones that should exist. That's not what I mean by nationalism. I'm talking about like nationalism is like a, it's like sports. It's why we do the Olympics, like who's going to win, like we take pride.
It's a culture.
Yeah, we take pride in our...
You're talking more of a culturalism, actually.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We take pride in ourselves, and we manifest this through things like sports and through religion and through even politics and stuff like this. Like we all have this identity that is, the result of a social fabric that consists of things like this. So, my point is that it sounds like you've got this this deep-seated idea of what you should be and what you're realizing that you are as someone in your early 30s is at odds with the thing you've been telling yourself your whole life you ought to be. And you mentioned you can't love yourself and that you can't accept love from others and that you kind of push people away because you think that you're not going to waste their time. Like you said that you don't want to waste people's time because you know the real you and you don't want to disappoint them or offend them, which is, I just want to triple down that is a very noble reason to come to that conclusion. But it's a wrong conclusion. Like, you got to be vulnerable with people. Relationship is relating. We have to contribute something. We have to show people something of ourselves. We have to be a little bit vulnerable, at least, to have any basis of a relationship. And we determine, how vulnerable we get with certain people.
You hit upon something there. I do find it hard to be vulnerable.
Okay.
I mean, here it's anonymous, so it's easier for me to talk. But there's a depression group I sometimes go to that I'll talk to people. Usually, I'm the one trying to help solve their problems or figure out how to work with them on their stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I find it hard to be open and honest because I'll be rejected, and that's very difficult for me.
Yeah.
I'd rather them just accept the pretty image that I've put up, and
my guess is that you've got some stuff to figure out with your faith. You're very... You seem like an intellectual. You seem like someone who's really slow to make a decision. You really mull things over. You mentioned you're really quick to reject information. And
I want to say I'm really quick to reject information. I'm quick to reject it if it doesn't make internal... Like I'll try to look at it within its own logical framework, within its own axioms.
Well, we do this with
and
things.
Then I'll try to look at it at a broader picture, and then if there seems to be too many inconsistencies, both internal or external, then I'll reject it.
This is going to seem like a pry, and it somewhat is, but I'm also willing to be wrong. I am wondering if you... how do I put this? Your religion is pulling on you in some way. I'm trying to be really careful how I put this. But like it seems like you're trying to reconcile this image that you have built for yourself, and I don't know if maybe your parents contributed to that, or if it's just what you grew up in, or if it's like young friends built this image of you that you can't seem to achieve. And I guess I just want to say that maybe you'll never achieve those things. Sometimes we're told we're going to be things as kids, and our support system projects things onto us that aren't really there, or they project things that they want to see, and it can take a lot of work to peel those layers back. You mentioned you have been in some therapy, I believe, and I think that's great. I definitely I think it's great that you have someone like that, or that you've at least used resources like that in the past. But like, I'm just trying to get real specific here because I'm still feeling my way around the dark a little bit. But it feels like your religion is really pulling on you in some ways that is. That's just all I know to say at this point, based on what you've shared. We've covered religion. Religion has come up a number of times because you mentioned it, and the gender and body image issues have come up a number of times because you mentioned it. And I'm trying to be real careful because I can tell that these things are all really important things to you, and I wonder, it sounds like some of the identity stuff is more recent. It's a more recent issue for you. Than it sounds like the faith aspect of your beliefs, of which I don't know. I don't know what you specifically believe, but it sounds like the religion thing is really pulling on you in ways that you don't know how to. I'm just sensing a bunch of cognitive dissonance, and I think that you're the kind of person that's really analytical, and you take things into really careful consideration. And again, I'll just say, even though I've already said it, that like there's a vast difference between faith and information, knowledge.
So what's the central part of that thesis there? I
apologize. I might not be the best person to talk to you if you have ADHD, because I kind of like the way I think about things is very, maybe bad for someone like you to hear. I apologize if I'm not making sense.
No.
I also process things very differently than a lot of people. So I'm trying to land this and make this a helpful call. And there are a million good ideas in the chat at this point. It seems like
you're trying to be very careful, but in that you're going about things very on your tiptoes, just a little bit.
Right. Well, I'm trying to be really sensitive because you mentioned you didn't want to dive into. Yeah, because you didn't want to dive into the gender stuff. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells a little bit because I don't want to stress you out.
I think you're focusing a little too much. I've been able to reconcile the gender thing to the most part as part of a more wider bodily dysphoria. The feeling of being a short, high-pitched man who has very effeminate tendencies and feelings, and feelings is complicated too, but
I see. Okay, so it's not that you, but what is this whole perfect person thing that you said you were aspiring to be? You said you felt like people would hate you. I'm not making that up.
No, you're not. The perfect person that I aspire to be. Again, Ned Flanders is the thing that comes to mind when I say perfect. Well, what I would like to see myself as is.
I want to attempt to sum this up. I want to attempt to sum this up. Can I attempt to sum this up?
Yeah, sure.
And I might be wrong. This is like if we were playing Wheel of Fortune, this would be my final guess or whatever they call it. Or, that's probably the wrong game show, actually, but I don't watch any TV. My final guess to you would be that, you keep mentioning Ned Flanders, and, this perfect person that you aspire to be, and it feels at odds with what you are, and you don't love yourself. And I just want to say to you that, it seems like you're a person who really is, a genuine person. You really have, you seem like somebody who's really committed to your worldview, and you seem like you have a good worldview. I don't know the specifics of it, but you seem like a really genuine person. So whatever you're doing, I just want to encourage you to continue doing it. And also to encourage you that, whatever you are, however God made you, you don't need to be ashamed to be that. whatever it is. We haven't quite gotten to the bottom of what that is that you can't seem to satisfy within yourself. But whatever you are is worth loving. And it's just heartbreaking to me that you haven't found the right people yet. But you will. I mean, I don't know where it's coming from. I'm shooting in the dark. It sounds like I've made some misses here, but I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to. It's part of the reason why I'm being so careful, because I don't know who I'm talking to, and yeah, I just want to encourage you that however you are is okay. Obviously, like if there's addictions and things happening, the addiction's not good.
No.
There's gotta
And
be.
I know that.
Yeah, but that's not a reason. That's not a reason to hate yourself. Everybody's addicted to something. In fact, we're all addicted.
Well,
We're all addicted to oxygen, in that we cannot live without it. So but that's not a vice. Obviously, I'm just making a joke.
No, I get it.
Yeah, that's just a little joke. But yeah, the addiction thing is serious. Of course, I'm not trying to belittle anything, but I guess I just feel like I just want you to know that however you are is okay. Like, even if you're a short man that feels like you're not masculine enough, like, I guess I would just, to that, I would say, like, what is masculine enough? Like, is the level of your masculinity okay? And are you comfortable with that? And can you carve out your own social niche with that? We all have there's this economics term, a comparative advantage. It means like some people are going to grow bananas really well. Others are going to make computer chips really well. And we're all going to cooperate and barter and trade. I love the idea that we all have, there's a social component to comparative advantage where, it's like your fingerprint. Nobody has your fingerprint. Also, nobody has your exact brain chemistry. That is to say, you have your own comparative advantage, even on a planet of 10 billion people. We all do. And there's something we can all learn from everyone. And you've got something to offer for sure. And I just want to make sure that I want to encourage you, rather, that you are someone worth loving. You're someone that deserves to love themselves. Doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter how you were born. What amounts of estrogen and testosterone were distributed to you in your mom's womb. That doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make it. Your chromosomes don't make a difference. Whether you're, how many X's or Y's you have, it doesn't make a difference.
I guess the thing I need to do is figure out what the perfect me is, and I don't know how to do that without comparing myself to others.
Yeah, you gotta let that go. You can't compare yourself to others.
No, I know. Well, I can't say that I'm perfectly, that much better, but I do appreciate the talk, and I'll think about this. I'll think about this for a little bit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I wouldn't expect someone with the brain it sounds like you have to just make some kind of quick decision. I appreciate that you're going to take some time to mull it over. And call back anytime. I want to, if there's anything else the chat or I can contribute, please call back.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for calling. Good night. All right, chat. Let's do one more because I'm feeling crazy. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hey, I just wanted to talk about something. I'm going through just a severe porn addiction, and I've done so much to try and just get it off and move past it, but I don't know what to do.
Define severe. How much of your time is this taking up?
Well, It's been going on for like 10, 12 years now, and I'm at the point where it's like, multiple times a week, and I just feel broken, really. I don't know.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of people calling in about porn.
Really? I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
know that was.
slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up there with Amazon shopping and YouTube wormholes and
I guess I suppose it's better than Amazon shopping, wasting money, but
depending on how you're consuming it, yes, I guess. I'm glad to hear you're not wasting money on porn.
yeah.
Well, you're definitely not alone.
And then I'm also in a relationship as well, and I guess it's that borderline of feeling like I'm cheating on my girlfriend, even though I don't know. Like we've talked about it, and I was clean for a while, and then I guess whenever I'm stressed or like going through something, I just use that as my go-to just to feel good in the moment.
Well, I'm still learning how to best be there for people in your case. Being that we're getting so many callers calling in with porn, I've yet to figure out exactly the best way to address this, so I apologize if I stumble through this. But
oh no,
no, I'm gonna just cut right to the chase. It's not to be insensitive. NoFap community is great. I'm not sure to what extent you're dealing with it. It's a hilarious name, but it's actually a great name. It's so easy to remember. Great community. I have some opinions about, the long-term effects of it, but it can be great for someone like you that it doesn't sound like it's, I wouldn't actually call this a severe case. If you're doing it multiple times a week, like we didn't talk about how many times multiple is, that could mean like you're doing it 3 times or 100 times, and also,
I get that.
Yeah. The only distinction being that there's some people that like literally cannot go to work and they're like losing their jobs because of porn.
No, it's not that. Yeah.
So I hope that encourages you. I hope that encourages you that you're not that thick into the weeds yet, and that there's some hope. I would just go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, no, it's not that severe. It's just like I've realized I have an issue with it, and it's good to talk about it.
Right, 100% get it. Yeah. Well, how old are you?
25.
25. Okay. Well, yeah, you're. There's also a lot of people today who are just raised on really bad ideas of what love is and what sex is, and I don't know if that applies to you. I'm not sure if you're somebody that thinks porn is sex or that's how sex should be. Obviously, it's not how sex is supposed to be. So I'm not sure if that applies. Again, I'm just going fast here. Romanticism kind of has some effect on some of this. Like, I think a lot of people get addicted to porn because of like some distortion of romanticism, which is a horrible. It's like I consider myself a romantic, but romanticism is a horrible philosophy. Disney movies are not real life. We're all raised on this Disney movie stuff, and it's not real life. It's a lot. They're not even making movies like that anymore, which is great. But a lot of people our age, your age, millennials and even Gen Xers and younger are raised on this really weird stuff that can affect how we can even affect things like porn use. Is my feeling that.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if that applies. Is any of this applying or landing, or I don't want to waste your time.
No, it is landing. It's making sense. It's really great to talk to somebody even anonymously and get different opinions and like know that I'm not the only one and there are other people.
Right. Have you had any professional help with this? Do you have like a counselor that can be there? I mean, I hope you're not just calling in tonight on like a, 10-minute phone call. Like, if this is something that's really stressing you out, have you gotten some help?
No, not yet. I think I'm more so leaning towards that direction and getting help, and I guess it's just acknowledging that I have an issue with it and then seeking the help I need, really.
Right. Well, definitely get some help. If this is something that's weighing on you, don't just make this a short phone call with me in the chat here tonight. There's probably something deeper going on. And
possibly.
Yeah, I think it could look a number of different ways depending on where it's coming from. But porn, just rest assured that this porn thing is like, you're not alone. A bunch of people are, addicted to porn in varying degrees, and it's this strange novelty which we've never had on the level we have now. I mean, hunter-gatherers made porn out of clay, tens of thousands of years ago. So it's to say that it's like a product of modern culture would be ridiculous, of course. But like the level of convenience with it today, and the quality and the availability, and there's it doesn't cost anything. It's like cigarettes, they're just fucking everywhere.
Yeah, it's so easy to do that. And then lately I've tried to deactivate or delete apps that could lead me towards that, and it's actually helped a lot with doing my studies and just focusing on myself, really.
Right.
So
that's good.
I do urge that. I do recommend that for other people going through that to I guess ease off TikTok or Snapchat, Facebook, right, and just focus on yourself too.
Right. That's great. Well, I'm encouraged to hear callers like you. It sounds like you've got actually a good direction with this, and you just maybe needed some initial feedback on where you are. I think that it's great you're open to therapy. A lot of people, a lot of millennials are not open to therapy or think it doesn't work. I'm not sure why that is. I'm glad to hear that that's not the case here, and I hope that if this continues to be an issue, that you'll call in, even if you have counseling. Maybe this is there's something you might be able to get here that's not counseling, since it's completely anonymous. So even if you're getting counseling, if you want to call back anytime.
All right, sweet. Thank you, man. I really appreciate what you're doing too. I try and catch in every night, so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support, and thanks for calling in tonight and sharing.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. All right, guys, I think that is it for the night. Mark M, I'm highlighting for the last caller. Mark M from the chat here had a comment that I didn't make it to before the end of the call, but they say, I recommend talking to your girlfriend about it. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, if they don't already know your girlfriend. Also, Mark M, thank you for the super chat earlier. I did notice that in the middle of a call. Thank you guys all so much for tuning into these. I know this is like the slowest moving thing there is on YouTube, but that's what it's supposed to be, in my opinion. It's like, we're not here to, this isn't entertainment, even though it's, there's some goofy moments, obviously, especially when the trolls are rampant. But, this is like this wild experiment of like how honest can we make this? Like how, unproduced can we make this while still doing it effectively? So I've appreciated all the feedback and ideas and support. Thank you, Offcore, for moderating the chat on these last couple. Amazing little community we're building here. I'm absolutely loving these, and already looking forward to the next one. Hope you all had a great holiday. I'm going to go retire for the evening. And I've seen a couple of comments about what time we do these, so I'll answer that real quick before signing off. These happen 3 times a week right now, on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 9 p.m. Central until midnight. when the first few episodes, when we started doing these, we were doing them from 10 p.m. Central to 1 a.m. and had some feedback from the East Coast that a little earlier would be better. And we're already getting feedback from Europe that 8 p.m. Central would be even better. But I don't know what to do about that, Europe, because even 8 p.m. is still in the middle of the night for you guys. So what's the difference? Hate to be insensitive. Thank you, Atris Oranus, for the super chat just now. I appreciate that. And yeah, so we're going to probably keep up this 9 p.m. Central thing is my point. Probably not going to move it anytime soon. It feels like a good kind of sweet spot. But you know, all of this is still in flux. So we're just going to see what's going to happen. Yeah, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Central. See you then.